Welcome to the Weekend Must Watch on Intercut, the weekly show going through the movies, TV, and entertainment that people just can't cut away from. As always, I'm your co-host Arturo Zurita, and joining me for another year of 1,000+ movies, it's
Whew.
Zachary Chevy.
Yeah, the marathon begins all over again, and there's no time to rest. We're right back in it with some new 2024 movies to discuss, and we're
Yes, sir.
already deep in our Sundance prep. I got a week until I'm driving out to meet you in Chicago.
I thought we
It's
had two. I came back from Tennessee where I spent my New Year's festivities. I come back, I pick up Lady, our dog,
Mhm.
thinking I'm going to have another week. Now I'm going to drop her off with the mother in law 1 week later. She might as well have just left her bags there at
I
that
know,
point.
I know. It all just feels like it's happening so fast, but I mean, it's exciting, right? We should be excited. It's a good
It's
thing.
work. Hey, you know
Yeah.
what? We got gigs coming our way. That's really all that matters. And a lot of great movies. We just wrapped up all of our best of the years with Amanda, our best TV, our hidden gems, our best movies. We sometimes talk about films here. And it was a buttload of stuff. It's always our Inner Cuties favorite videos that we do because it's obviously recapping the entire year. We get to say all of our favorite stuff on all of our favorite, pieces of media that have been out there, all of the works of art. We are going to be working on a most anticipated, not to be conflated with the Sundance one, because that in and of itself is already like 20 most anticipated that end up at the end of the year. So we have a lot of videos coming out for January right before we get into Sundance. But the biggest one definitely has to be our Inter Cutie Awards. Zach has been
Yeah.
compiling scientifically all of the best options that are out there. He doesn't just look at the globes and the derbies and whatever else is out there. He fine tunes to make sure that every single submission is on there. So we are going to be releasing a Google document
Mhm.
where you're going to be able to vote as an intercutie what your favorites are for all of the basic categories and some more that we like to do for the Intercut Awards. So Zach and I are going to be putting together what we did a couple of years ago, which is going through all the categories, pretty much the Intercut Oscars. But in between, we want to have your voice heard. So be on the lookout for the Intercutie Award document sheet that's going to be down below. We're going to be plugging that in pretty much all the videos
Yeah.
going through February. So Zach can speak more on that, plus another video that he's got out.
Yeah, definitely. We are looking forward to being, tabulating all the results and seeing what everybody votes because it's
We
not
have an
just a
accountant.
chance for us to come together and determine, not just the best films, but the best acting and the best production design, the best writing, all the things that we love that go into these films, but also do it in a way that I think celebrates the types of films that we like to celebrate here on Intercut. It ends up becoming a good slice of what my taste is, Arturo's taste is, all the Intercuties taste is, because we're not going for necessarily the most popular movies, but films that we've really loved and championed and been talking about all year. And I think we picked some interesting titles from the last time we did the Intercut Awards. So I'm excited to run it back with a really exciting year. Obviously, people were really enjoying the last year of film. I think a lot of people really
It was a
responded to
great
our
year.
video. Yeah, I mean, we went really long in our best movies of the year video because there's just so much to get excited about. And normally our hidden gems video doesn't do as well as our best movies and TV
It's hidden.
videos do. People love that one because it's there's so many movies to talk about
Yeah.
from last year that are worth mentioning. Movies are having a moment, man.
Yeah. And everybody knows like what the top picks usually are going to be. Maybe they've heard of it. Even if they haven't watched it, they know, oh, okay, yeah, that's another one to watch. Our hidden gems. Our hidden gems were the hidden gems of the hidden gems. We could do a
Mhm.
hidden gems part two with how many we had
Exactly.
in that video. So
Yeah.
no, that's awesome. I would
And
also you had brought it up that 2023 was a little 2014-ish. I think you had called it 2014, if I'm not mistaken.
2017-esque,
I think you
maybe
called it
even.
2019-ish, if we're being honest.
Yes, 2019 is really, I think,
I
the
love
proper.
how in retrospect we say all these years like it was like 2014, no, it was like 2016, no, it was like 2019. That
Yeah.
sounds like it was every other good year,
It's like bottles of wine, right? They're better
right?
in odd years or
Yeah.
something.
Oh man, it was a really good year. 2023 had a
Yeah.
lot of great movies, and I'm excited to look at the most anticipated because you put the list together, and there are some bangers on there. But before we get into that one, you got the chance to interview one of our favorite documentarians, and
Yeah.
I take documentaries very seriously,
Yeah.
and the craft of the documentary is a lost art form in my opinion because of how many just fake attempts at being able to get a reaction or to be able to manipulate a story or almost like, fabricating it from the background. You have Netflix and Hulu fighting for fire docs, and they're doing unethical things to be able to be the first one out there. This director who you got, dude, is top 5 documentarians out there working right now. It's not even close. Both of
Absolutely.
his last movies have blown us away at Sundance, and you had the chance to talk to him for about an hour, and it's hosted up on Intercut.
Yeah, I had the privilege to talk to director Luke Lorenzen as well as his producing partner Kellen Quinn, who together made A Still Small Voice, both my pick and your pick for one of the hidden gems of last year, an incredible documentary that we saw almost a year ago at last year's Sundance.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, Luke is just a director who I think has really blown us away because he has this ability to craft these really beautiful images, these really like
Yeah.
amazingly considered frames for these very intimate moments that you think like it shouldn't be, you shouldn't be able to get this kind of coverage of something so urgent and so fraught, but he has a way of really embedding himself and just being in the right place at the right time for these situations. And I think I love his approach to documentary filmmaking, so I wanted to talk to him about that. But it's also really curious about how he feels about the documentary world in general, because as you said, there are so many of these documentaries like true crime docs or celebrity profile docs that
Yeah.
pop up on Netflix and Hulu and dominate. And I think sometimes the idea of the documentary is almost being taken away from the more artful observational style documentaries, and it's going to the cheaper, more crass style of documentary filmmaking. So one of the things I did in my interview is I asked him a little bit about what it's like trying to sell a much more quiet style of documentary to a world that is booming with these much more loud documentaries. And I thought his answer is really interesting. I want to play a little bit of it for all of us now. I'm curious how the boom in that type of documentary has affected the market for the types of films that you both are trying to make.
I think it's constantly changing, and it's really hard to know where everything is going. And it's not just the industry, it's the pandemic and the economy. It's like a lot of factors unfolding at once. And the experience we had with Midnight Family and its release was very different from the experience we've had with this film in terms of who's willing to support it and sort of take it out into the world. I think the short answer is it feels like a very, very challenging time for a film like this. And big platforms seem pretty universally uninterested in the types of films that Kellen and I are most interested in.
Yeah, so talk to him about a lot of things. Also talk to him about the upcoming Apple TV narrative adaptation
Gonna
of
be
Midnight
interesting.
Family. That's
Yeah.
it's I found out Yalitza Aparicio, the woman from Roma, is going to be in that
Okay.
too. So it's got some
Okay.
interesting stars. Yeah. So
Damn.
another thing to anticipate heading into 2024.
What's gonna be insane about that one is I remember you had recommended that to catch it as one of the award winners at Sundance. I think it was like right in the middle of the Super Bowl. You were like,
Yeah.
forget the Super Bowl, you'll be out before Travis Scott comes out for the halftime show. We went to go see it, and he captures some of the most beautiful shots when he's following a family who's like an emergency ambulance
Yeah.
in Mexico. And I don't think that the narrative version is going to be able to capture with a whole set, lights, camera, pauses, and everything what he was able to capture in that documentary. So I'm very intrigued to see how they're going to adapt that. But no, great interview, and that man was rocking that sweater, dude. That was a beautiful sweater. You have a beautiful
Mine
sweater
it
too.
is.
Don't get me wrong. Yours is always comfy. I know that. But I like this. I've been liking that beige color. I just got some of the
Yeah.
Sundance merch in that color as
Ooh.
well. We might have to roll out looking like House of Gucci in one of those Sundance days. It's going to be
There
a
we
lot of
go.
fun, but definitely check out that interview. A lot more interviews hopefully on the way as we do Sundance and South by. A lot of the festivals are usually the most kind when it comes to doing interviews. So hey, shout out to that one right there. Good stuff, Zach.
Definitely.
Coming into this year, though, we want to give a big shout out to the Intercuties who are watching live. I wish I could pull up the chat over here, but a shout out to Devesh, who we see on the live stream. Josh is always there. Max Law saying that he loves our work. We appreciate you. We love your comments. And I know now that we are in this new year, you and I kind of had a little bit of a how would you call it? Year in review when it comes to Letterbox. You put some snippets out there for the Intercutie patrons.
Yeah.
What has changed in that last week for you? Because you and I really want to push this to be like the Spotify for film nerds,
Yeah.
and there wasn't that big of a rollout. I think I saw more people waiting for their year in review, and by the time it was the 5th, everyone had moved on. Sadly.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the thing is that the Letterboxd year in review focuses a lot more on Letterboxd as a platform and less on your
Oh yeah.
specific stats on Letterboxd. So people don't get the opportunity to be like, oh, well, this is my taste or whatever. You have to like have your own patron account, which granted, both of us do. We have our stats. We talked about our stats in a video that we uploaded to our Patreon. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think maybe they gotta like unearth some of that stuff for the regular unpaid folks to maybe get that Spotify kind of virality. But there were some interesting things from the Letterboxd year in review. I don't know if any stats in particular popped out to you, or just like the high scores for films that we've talked about on Intercut, like Rice Boy Sleeps,
Mhm.
and others stood out to you.
I like when we were going through ours, because I think this right here that I have pulled up is just like you were saying, the overall letterbox one.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think what you were saying is when you deal with something like when you're a patron and when you're not, you end up getting different stats. Um, we are able to, as patrons, get stats like forever, I guess, right? Like right
Yeah.
now, I can know my stats for 2024, but everybody else has to wait till that last minute, like, I don't know, newsletter or whatever that they get. And I
Mhm.
think taking advantage of those nano genres that they have and being able to say like you
Oh
were one of
yeah.
the first fans or whatever. Think about what makes the Spotify one so successful, and it's like that I was 0.001 whatever of
Right.
the fans. I think they need to play with that a lot. They've already got the virality. They're already very much online. They have everything to push it forward, but I think right now they don't realize that, to me, Spotify is Spotify. No matter what account you have, how you listen's how you listen. But like you're saying here, you're already being divided by regular. What is it, patron and then pro?
Right. And then
Yeah, I'm sorry. That looks like Twitter
free
check
accounts
marks to
too.
me. That looks like Twitter check marks to me. I think that's why they don't want to push it, because they're going to see the rift that Letterbox chooses not to stand with,
Right.
and realize actually we do have a really big tiered thing that we have going on here. I don't know. I mean, we've invested a lot of our energy, a lot of our lists on Letterbox, and I think it would be really cool to see them flesh that out, because one of the things that I found most fascinating when we were breaking down our list was what we overliked or overly disliked more than other people. I think that's really cool. Those are
Yeah.
some of my favorite stats to know.
Yeah. I put on mine, I got Skinamarink, You Hurt My Feelings, Origin, Old, which I had only watched last year,
You loved it.
Tar, and the Bob's Burgers movie I rated higher than most people. Whereas Onyx the Fortuitous,
Hater.
Scream 6, The Family Plan, Free Guy, Saltburn, and Anyone Would But You, which is one of the movies we'll be
Wow.
talking about
Yeah, we're
soon.
gonna have to debate that.
I got lower than most people.
It's an interesting thing. I also like the like subgenres of stuff. I was seeing I think it was Josh in the chat. My stats confuse me. You start learning things about yourself and what nano genres you really like, what kind of thrillers, what kind of slice
Yeah,
of life movies.
explosive and action-packed heroes versus villains.
Some
Like I
weird
don't.
things,
Yeah,
yeah. But I also like that it keeps track of how many directors, who's your most watched actor, different things like that. And even to the point where it's like, I think if you scroll down, you start seeing who your favorite assistant director is, who your like favorite grip is. And I find that stuff interesting, because you'll click on them and then realize like, wait a minute, this person is where the juice is at. This is the person who finds, no matter what the role is, the best projects to be around.
yeah.
So
I mean, look at Jeremy Marks. Aside from doing all 4 John Wick movies, he was on Killers of the Flower Moon, Maestro, and Silence.
there you
Not
go.
bad for an assistant director.
Not bad. That was what I did for my Sundance one. There was one assistant director who had been assistant director in a lot of movies. I'm like, yo, this guy's like 2 hours away from being director. So hey, you may even be able to find future talent with that. But let's get into the movies that we have to talk
Yeah,
about this week, because we
let's do it.
have, I think, 10, probably the most. This is a full packed weekend must watch, just talking about the films of the holiday season and the new year, as we get into our first weekend must watch. Zach swam the other way when it came to this one. Night Swim is the premiere movie of 2024. I feel like horrors are here to stay when it comes to the first movie of the year. It's the easiest, I guess, sacrifice to put out there. Most people will come when it's a Blumhouse budgeted movie. It has a decent premise, but they also know that if they risk losing, not that much people in the theaters because it's, snowy season. It's not going to be that bad of a return on investment later on. Night Swim is one of the first movies after the completed deal between Jason Blum,
There you
and
go.
James Wan. I was mixing up their names. Wan and Blum are fully in cahoots now. I think through Universal, they're releasing stuff under Blumhouse and Atomic Monsters. And this is the first foray. It comes from Bryce McGuire, who previously did the short film for this Night Swim. It's completely off the internet because obviously they picked him up really fast. But he's done a couple. This one we had actually caught last South by. It was about a haunted house, and it was one of our favorites from the midnight category there. So he's done a lot of shorts. Now that he's transitioning up here to the big boy leagues, you had a winter storm, so you couldn't leave the house. And I would not be skiing for a movie like Night Swim. I would definitely not hit you with like, yo, how you need to get out there to see this movie.
I'm not trying to mess with black ice to see Carrie Condon take a night swim. I'm sorry.
It has potential. This is a movie that I would almost slightly recommend as a rent it. I can't say leave the theater, but there is some good scares in this movie. It just drags a little too much in this family moving into this house before you start understanding what's really happening with the pool. It begins with, this haunted pool where a little girl gets trapped in there. So when the new family comes in, they don't know anything about what previously happened in this pool. They just know that their father, played by Russell Jr., he's a baseball player who got injured. Once he gets into the pool, magical things start happening and he starts feeling a lot better. But then some secrets come out about this pool, about how in order for you to be given something, you have to give something away. I found that to be really interesting. I think all the performances in here are not bad. You were mentioning Carrie Condon. I was looking at this lady wondering, I thought she was Jodie Comer for like half of the movie.
Yeah, they look a little alike.
They look too much alike. And it wasn't until the movie ended that I was like, I saw her name pop out. I was like, of course, Carrie Condon, Banshees. Oh, my bad. She's good in the movie. Russell's always pretty decent in the stuff that he's in. I would even say that the kids aren't bad in the film. But there's so much push and pull that happens throughout the movie of like, who's going to get haunted in this, who's not, that the hauntings don't really feel attuned to the characters. They're for the audiences. So like when someone's standing underneath the diving board and there's something on top of it, for who? They can't see it. By the time the kid goes around, it's gone. So a lot of these scares end up being, again, for the people watching the movie more than it works within the movie. But I did like the themes of it. This is a movie that Blumhouse, if it makes its money back, can make a Night Swim 2, 3, 4, 5. The idea is that this pool and where the water comes from, that's a story that can span prequels. It can go into the future. It's a fascinating premise. I just wish that the execution was a little bit better, but there are some interesting shots in it. So if you're a horror fan, you don't have the best horror movie out now, but from previous years, I would say that this is a lot better of a January entry than we've gotten in the past, like from the Bye Bye Man or something. So Night Swim out in theaters. I would personally give it a rental recommendation if you got a discount code for that. Night Swim.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, January doesn't really provide that much in terms of like quality, but it does seem to be a pretty reliable place to at least get like some slasher sort of thrills. Maybe not slasher, but like horror in general has succeeded in Dumpuary, whereas nothing else seems to really stick.
I think January, and I was even looking at August, bro. I don't know if you're gonna tell me when we get into our anticipated. August looks stacked, and those have always been, like you said, Dumpuary and August, right before kids go to school. They don't put anything there. Mean Girls comes out next week. Book of Clarence I've been waiting for. A lot of the Oscar releases are finally getting their rollouts. Origin, all these good things are still coming out in January. August has the new M. Night. It's got like a couple of other horror movies and an action movie that's coming out that are pretty jam-packed. So, we also have Beekeeper coming out next week. So January is finally getting a little bit of a boost. But
yeah, maybe.
Night Swim may not be the one to get you out into theaters yet. Maybe next week, but that is out there. Let's talk about some of the stuff that we both did get to see from last year. And I got to ask you right off the bat. Zach, did you watch Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom in 3D?
No, I did not. I saw the one trailer where Patrick Wilson goes through the aspect ratio, and that was enough playing with it for me. I went Dolby, man. I'm going, if I have to sit there and see a movie that I'm like not that excited about seeing, I at least want to get like a nice sound
That's crazy
experience.
Yeah. I would have chosen the seats in my house, but I had no choice but to go out there. Our press screening had the glasses, and I've never been to a press screening where they weren't waiting for you afterwards to get a little note. I went home. I'm like, okay, surely they'll send the email. They clocked out, and we did not hear anything from Warner Brothers since. They did not have the person out there telling you, please keep your phones off. This movie has yet to be released. They wanted you to film this, put anything out there. Boy, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, what a way to go. The end of the DCEU.
Yeah, a historic ending, right? And to think this was the first one was the highest grossing of all the DCEU movies too.
Billy, yeah. Look, I think a lot of people have now recognized what the bubble is, and for those who don't know what the definition of a bubble is, it's when Captain Marvel and Aquaman can make $1 billion within a year of each other, because that is the bubble, and then the sequels to these $1 billion movies are barely scratching what, 300, 200. That's not good, dude. I would still say that it's the same quality as the first one. It did not complete things I wanted to, but it's the same quality.
I think there's like a bit of a step down in that this one you can feel the studio manipulation a lot more. Like this movie feels like it was hacked to bits in editing. Like all of a sudden, Jason Momoa and Patrick Wilson are like traipsing through a jungle for some reason, even though this is a Aquaman movie. I don't know. There's this whole thing with Amber Heard where it feels like maybe they were trying to cut her out, maybe not, because she's got these like key moments, but also at one point Jason Momoa is like, here's to single dads. Like you have a wife, bro. What's going on?
No, when he said that, I was like, there's absolutely no way they gave him that line. Bro, she's at work. She's the one making the money. You're at home drinking beer. It's goofy. You could tell that there was a lot of meddling. It's funny you say studio. I didn't see it as a studio. I saw it as two dudes duking it out in one way. James Wan is here trying to make his movie. And I think that there are certain moments where you get these beautiful one takes in that digital, like, I wouldn't even want to say digital, but you remember in Malignant, he had that robot that got that really crazy shot of the demon.
Yeah.
You saw Malignant, right?
Yes.
When it's attacking at the precinct, they use this robot arm that was able to capture it like all crazy. He's got that same mechanism here when they're like breaking into the abyss, when they're breaking into his headquarters. They look really cool. Then you have Jason Momoa, who's a writer on this movie, Zach. Why?
Story by credit.
Zach, why is this man a writer on this movie? I see a director who has earned his keep and got them the $1 billion, having to fight with the star of this movie with what the story is supposed to be. So I don't even think it's a studio. I think it's a creative and your lead duking it back and forth on what they want the movie to be.
Well, look, if it's the studio, if it's the director, if it's the lead of the movie, whatever's going on, there's way too many cooks in the kitchen with this movie, because it is trying to be several things at once, and there's just, it never succeeds in doing any of those things. I think I was able to enjoy the first one a little bit, just in terms of the like dudes rock energy that Jason Momoa brings to a lot of things.
Okay.
I just didn't, there wasn't even enough of that to go around in this one. It felt so forced. It felt like they were trying to fit this character into places where this character doesn't belong. And just sort of, it just didn't land at all. So even though I was not exactly a fan of the first one, I think this is a step down.
Interesting.
And in a pretty kind of like shrug of an ending to the DCEU, particularly the end credits scene, which I don't know, I feel like it's been long enough that we can talk about it without doing a huge spoiler warning, right?
Go ahead.
I mean, you're the one who gets more into the like connectivity of these things, but
what connectivity?
like is this the biggest FU to people who like sit around waiting for end screen since, like, I don't know, Multiverse of Madness or what? Like,
Multiverse of Madness at least had an actress appear at the end, right?
Yeah, doesn't feel like she knew what she was doing there, but yes.
Yeah, this is trying to be like, I think it was a Spider-Man one with Cap saying, you waited this long. Let's talk about patience.
Right.
If this was a joke gag because the DCEU was continuing, would it be okay? Or does it really sting because it's the final moment with these characters? I mean, think about it. Flash was like the end, right?
Yeah.
That was where they were wrapping it all up. They're trapping them in the multiverse, whatever.
Mhm.
Does it not end with an post credit scenes with Aquaman getting made fun of for being a drunk? Then before his movie comes out, there's rumors about him being drunk on set all the time, and that's why him and Amber Heard can't be there. And then they end this movie eating cockroaches, bro. Cockroaches.
Yeah, and I think it is just that like idea of a joke, like almost deflation of an ending, but it's just a bad joke. Like the Captain America thing is kind of subversive and clever, and maybe it's a little bit like annoying, but like at least there's a cleverness to it. There's nothing clever here.
Do you see any of these people coming back? Right, the rumors have been: are there certain characters that are going to stay within the DCU? Nothing really matters at this point, right?
Yeah.
But do you see some of these being those canon type of characters where Marvel is switching up everybody, but they've still kept some X-Men? Obviously, it's going to be very difficult to change a Wolverine. Do you see Aquaman as Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, where there can't be another person? He is the guy who made Aquaman cool.
Yeah. Well, look, the way these things work in 10 years, people are going to have some weird kind of nostalgia for this thing and be desperate for it, right? Like everything that
Sure.
sucked at one point is now popular because people who were babies when they were like these things came out are now old enough to demand what gets made.
No, it's
I don't
because they
know.
finally learned what Super Troopers, or not Super Troopers, Starship Troopers meant. It was the
Exactly.
lost art.
So I don't know. I don't see a real need to go back to any of these characters. Aquaman always kind of felt like he was sort of being I don't know, shoehorned into the other movies he appeared in. Like
You don't even want to see the characters?
I mean, this iteration of the character is more
You
what I'm
take a new
saying.
actor.
Like, I'm saying, yeah, I'm saying I don't think that Jason Momoa style Aquaman is the future of this character in movies. And to be honest, I don't know if there's like a huge need for this character to be in movies. I think part of the superhero bloat that we've been talking about and that's been affecting the market is straying away from the heroes that people care enough about to actually go to the theater for, you
Yeah.
know?
I mean, not even their villains were able to get any justice. They did or do Yahya dirty.
Yeah.
The only reason I was waiting for this movie was to see his comeuppance for what happens in the first movie.
Mhm.
They give him the absolute, I won't even spoil that one, but they give him the absolute worst ending. They thought he was an MCU Black Panther villain with the line that they gave him. It was
Right.
not that movie. It did not look cool. You forgot even what was happening to his character the whole time. I felt really bad that they stuck him in there. It's bad when the minion of the bad guy is getting more pull than the bad guy, you
Yeah.
know? But shout out to Randall Park. He's been in the MCU, he's been in DCU. As for the future for it, do you even think there's gonna be a DCU? They were talking about how Wile E. Coyote, like everything's being sold. I think right before last year, we were in the middle of recording our best of the year, and we
Mhm.
ended up getting news that two companies were combining, right? Which years ago, you and I would have been on this podcast going, "That's not gonna happen," but Disney and Fox did happen. Was it not Warner and Paramount?
I think that's what the rumor is, and obviously there's nothing like official out there, but it
Why is it
seems
a
like
rumor?
yeah, I mean exactly. It's kind of like smoke before there's fire, right? Like it's kind of one of the big stories that people are predicting to happen in 2024 is that they will be some of this consolidation in the streaming space, in the entertainment space
That's
that
insane.
yeah.
There's not gonna be any money for the DCU. My
Uh,
man, has anyone told him that he's not gonna get the Superman movie made?
yeah, I would doubt that we see all those movies that have been planned or at least been
Oh
hinted
man.
at.
Yeah, it's gonna be like all those Star Wars projects that just went by the wayside.
Yeah,
Well, it's gonna be a very
wasn't
interesting year.
Patty Jenkins's Star Wars fighter pilot movie supposed to come out like last month?
Rest in peace. It'll be interesting, but for the DCU, to me personally, this movie is the lowest renta. It's a stream it. You will be able to wait for HBO Max to have it. You'll be able to wait for Netflix to have it. You saw all those DC movies go over there. They don't know what they're doing over at WB. You'll have multiple ways to catch this at home where it should be, and hopefully they'll fix the effects by then. Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom and Lost Story script for this movie out in theaters now. No good. You did get the chance to finally catch a movie
Yeah,
that a lot of people were saying was going to be a sleeper hit, that people
yeah.
were making their top list, but they were not ready because there was still one big adaptation. Sorry, a bold adaptation that was still yet to come out. The Color Purple. I liked it. Zach, you got to see it in Christmas weekend. What'd
I
you think?
did. I don't think I was as high on it as you.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm sorry to say. Um, I don't know. It's just a weird marriage of tones to me because this is such a, it's a historical drama about
yes.
a fraught time, and it's
Mm-hmm.
very much about like the abuse that women face and
Yep.
escaping, tough realities. And I think marrying that to the Broadway style show tune just felt discordant to me. It just felt a little like it didn't match. And a lot of times with these adaptations of previous properties to Broadway musicals, my frustration becomes that like people start singing and the story just stops flat in its tracks. And I don't know, man. I mean, like the singing is beautiful.
Incredible.
All the performances are like good and fun. I just didn't find many of them to be particularly interesting. I don't think that the characters feel particularly well fleshed out. So I don't know, like it's well produced. I think it's well shot. I think it's shot a little more like a music video than a movie musical, but that's a whole other point. I just don't know if like it felt like it hit the right tone for me personally, but I also know that like I sometimes struggle with this marriage of like I don't know. It's something that you find a lot in movies that are maybe not faith based, but faith adjacent, where there's this like hopeful energy in the face of like really fraught circumstances.
Okay.
And so I don't know. I just sort of I felt at odds with the characters, and I think that going back to the original Color Purple film, I, while I don't think that's necessarily the most successful version of this story either, I just don't feel like it holds the weight of those like really like big showcase sequences.
Interesting. I thought it was great.
Yeah,
Compared to the first one, obviously all of it stems from the book that was written years ago. I know that a lot of
yeah.
the cast from the original read that book and was like, "Whoa, this is the story of my life." They made the original. They chose what's his name? What's that one guy? That one director? They got him to do
Uh
it.
Blitz. Are
No,
we
no, no.
talking?
The first one. The first one. They got that one dude to do it.
Oh,
Steven
Steven
Spielberg.
Spielberg. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so they got
Pretty
Steven
good
Spielberg to
director.
do it. Yeah, pretty decent. And there was a lot of pushback to that because they're like, well, why is this man telling the story of The
Yeah.
Color Purple about women, as you said, who are going through traumatizing times? I, there was one line I can't remember who said it, and it was the idea was that they got him because he was the best director to tell this story. And it reminds me right now of the people complaining about Martin Scorsese
Doing
telling the
Killers of
story
the
that he
Flower
did
Moon.
with Killers of the Flower Moon.
Yeah.
They knew that he had the best eye and the best direction to be able to put that on screen. I think what he did with the original Color Purple was fantastic because he took Oprah, who many of us have seen in other projects. You've even heard her talk. She's a mogul. That's great. I think he directs her fantastically in this movie. If you
Yeah.
don't have Spielberg on the opposite end of that camera directing her, you do not get that performance out of her. You do not get that performance out of Whoopi Goldberg, who easily has one of her best performances in this movie. The whole story is of these two sisters who get split. One of them ends up with this guy named Mister, horrible person, but you get to see the ripples that come out of him being abused the same way, and then the abuse that can go there. Where do you stop those chains? I think it's a fantastic story. I think while the first one has better performances and the
Mhm.
story is stronger, I think these two complement each other beautifully, dude. I think what this one's able to do with the music is make you feel it more than it is how you were saying it. Instead of making it dramatic. There,
Right.
there are some story elements that you lose in The Color Purple where there should have been more of a dialogue happening between two people, but they cut to music instead. And I
Mhm.
agree. I was like, oh, it's not as strong as it was in the first one. But then they just, to me, they do something completely different, and you get into the emotions of them. It stops becoming a conversation between two people, and it starts becoming something that's happening in someone's head. And hearing the director talk about it, who it's interesting that you mentioned it was like a music video. He did Black
Yeah.
is King. That's what got him on the
You know who
radar.
this is though, right? It's
Hmm.
Blitz the Ambassador. Like he's a rapper who became
MoMA, all that. Yeah.
yeah.
I agree with you that they do look like music videos, but it worked for me because I felt like each one was a vignette of what's happening in the character's mind. There's one really interesting bit that The Color Purple does, the new one, where our main character, this time played by Fantasia, she did a fantastic job.
Yeah, I actually really like Fantasia. I know
Dude.
everybody's coming out of this movie saying Danielle Brooks steals it.
who also is great.
Great.
But I told you
thought-
Fantasia, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, yo, she does a fantastic job in this. Also, the casting that they did between her and her younger self, I don't like, y'all must have time traveled. I don't know how you did that. Fantasia's character is processing everything internally in this movie. So there is this sequence where she is thinking about Shug, who is her man's real woman, who he couldn't tame, so she's always out there, played by Taraji P. Henson. And the way he envisions her on that couch, or sorry, on the bed, off of the picture frame, that scene alone is what got me to understand the whole movie. I'm like, okay, every single time that we cut into these music video sequences, it's because we're in her head and we really do leave this dark world that she's in. And then when you snap out of the music video world, you're back into this grim reality where she is being abused by Mr., where she is having to take care of these kids who aren't hers. A lot of it worked for me. I do think that maybe me watching the original and then this one back to back complements them well. But it's also understanding that one is supposed to be an adaptation of the book. This is supposed to be an adaptation of the Broadway play that Fantasia was in, that I think Danielle Brooks was in as well. Yeah. I'm missing someone, dude. There was another American, I think she was in Dreamgirls too. Oh, why am I blinking on Jennifer Hudson? Yeah. I don't know why I didn't get her for something, but they got Sierra in this movie instead. I don't know. It worked for me. I thought that there was a lot of really good performances when it came to the music that came from Broadway, and then new musicals that they had that I'm rooting for to at least make the top 5 when it comes to the Oscars. They've already been shortlisted. Halle Bailey, I think, has the best one. It's that Sunshine Pocket song. I thought that was a beautiful song. I think Fantasia did a great job. I think it works. I think the cameos are beautiful. I liked it a lot. I think both of them are up there for completely different reasons for me as iterations of The Color Purple. So I give it my recommendation. I think it's worth watching in the theater. Because I don't believe in faith.
Look, I mean, in terms of the theatrical experience, just because it's a musical, it totally benefits from that too. But I'll say I saw it in a theater that was pretty full. Primarily Black audience. That was a great way to experience it because people are into it.
They know the quotes from the original.
Like, call and response. Yeah.
Did you get one of these, bro? Everybody at the end, they do that bit that happens in the end of the original movie. Obviously, she's gonna do it here where she puts the curse, right? I thought everyone had seen the Iron Claw. They were all going like this. I had a great time watching it with the crowd that we had, and I'm looking forward to capturing it again. I thought Coleman Domingo also a fantastic job from him as Mr. A completely different portrayal, in my opinion, because unlike Danny Glover in the original movie, who I think does a really menacing job, and I would say is even more menacing than Coleman, you get to see a side of this character where they allow him to be, not to spoil too much, but you allow him to see his mistakes be redeemed, forgiven. Right. I don't want to get too much into it. I thought that was a very powerful point to add in this iteration.
He's a little bit more textured than the portrayal of Mr. in the original. And that was actually one of the big controversial elements of Spielberg's handling of the original, is that a lot of people, James Baldwin being one of the notable ones, had critiqued the portrayal of Black men in Spielberg's The Color Purple as being too like unabashedly violent, to like almost like monstrously violent.
You never want to see the truth, right?
Yeah, but like you say here, the Coleman Domingo portrayal of it is one that's a little bit more well-rounded, one that like goes further into why the character is the way he is, and does have softer edges in certain aspects to it too.
Because again, the story itself, it's not saying that all men are like that. It's specifically their story and what the author went through. And I think that the way that they showed this was showing you how you get to that forgiveness stage that the main character gets to. So I thought, to me, this is also one of my favorite ensembles, dude. I think the ensembles are great. I think the music is great. And I don't know, it worked for me in various ways, but there are a lot of moments that are a lot better in the first one than there are in this one. And then there are obviously musical elements that I think this one really excels with. So The Color Purple, out in theaters.
Can I say one thing, and hopefully nobody will call me ageist for it? Was Taraji right for this role?
She wasn't bad for the role.
Like she's a great actress, so she's good doing like whatever, but I just don't know if she was right for the character. She is both 14 years older than Fantasia and 14 years younger than David Allen Greer, who plays her father in this movie.
the Reverend.
Yeah.
I'll let that one pass. I thought she was good for what the
Yeah.
role asked for, but I will say that when it comes to a moment between her and Fantasia's character, it's something that's in the original, something that's in the
Mhm.
book. I
Mhm.
thought the way they played it off here was interesting, but
Bro,
specifically
you
to
and I
cover
could
it
have
up
been that intimate. You and I could have gotten away with that. That was
and
some
cut to the double. Yes.
pre-Obama stuff.
If you're not going to commit to it, then what are we doing here? Yeah,
Yeah.
I did see that one and the shadow outline. She was fine for it. I'm not going to hate on her a bit. It was really interesting to see all the behind the scenes. Her whole press tour kind of took all of that away.
Yeah.
That became a big talking point, and her having to fight for them being driven to set. I don't know if you heard about that.
I did, yeah, and it's crazy because this is not like a small time production. This is a Warner Brothers movie, and Oprah,
So
one
who
of the
gets
richest
that,
people in the world, is one of the producers
right?
on it. Yeah.
Because you could say that this is a lot of money going into maybe a lot of people who have never held a production this big, and maybe
Mhm.
they didn't know the ins and outs of it. But you do have producers who know the ins and outs of it. They should be providing that stuff for you. So it's a little weird for sure. A little
Yeah.
weird.
And I know that some people might think or hear something like, "Oh, they didn't have cars driving them to set. How hard is that?" or whatever. But
Oh no
like,
no no. Yeah, y'all
y-
need to understand that.
yeah,
It's
like
imperative.
these are people who are working sometimes extremely long days, often at weird hours. Like if you have a night shoot, you're getting up, at like 10 p.m. or midnight to start your day. Not to mention you're in unfamiliar areas. And the most interesting point, I forget who said it on Twitter, but thanks to whoever said it. If this is how they're treating the above the line talent,
Mm,
imagine how they're treating the crew and everybody who doesn't have like a big celebrity name.
yeah, that's really bad. But The Color Purple out in theaters. You have a better chance getting a ride to the theater than the cast had
It did
to
really
get to the
well.
Atlanta set. It
The
did?
box office too. People underestimate black-led films all the time, and again,
And out of all the
took home a lot
musicals
of money
too?
at the hall. Yeah, I think that's the thing is people were like, "Oh, musicals are doing so bad at the box office," and forgot that like there's always a crowd that shows up for these types of
If
movies.
you market it to them as a musical.
Yeah.
I still yet to see the Mean Girls musical trailer or the Wonka musical trailer, but this one did keep the music in there. So,
Mhm.
hey, I'm rooting for it to get some Oscar shortlist for those songs. I thought they were pretty good. Color Purple out in theaters now. We have another movie right here where Zach he doesn't believe in love, and he doesn't think that there should be hot, attractive actors out there making Abercrombie commercials and pitching them as rom-coms out there. But I remember an era where those were very much invited, and that is what Anyone But You is. Zach, tell me about your experience and what side were you on while watching the new epic that is Anyone But You?
I was team stay home for the holidays. I don't know. I saw
Oh,
this one
bro.
on 9:30 a.m. the day after Christmas because we thought might do a live stream, which is not necessarily the ideal time to take in like a sunny Australian vacation movie. But nonetheless, I wasn't the only one in the theater. There were a couple people with me,
Okay.
and uh, I don't know. I did not have the best time with this one. I'm somebody who is really sympathetic to like a silly, fun romantic comedy. I wish there were more of them being made. I wish there were more of them in theaters. Based on box office, it seems like a lot of people wish there were more of them in theaters. I
Oh,
just
did what?
thought this I just thought that this one resembled bad community theater in so many ways. It just feels false. Like there's not one line that Sydney Sweeney delivers in this movie that felt like authentic. There's not one line in this movie where Glenn Powell felt like an actual character. She's sort of like juggling between doing the like Julia Roberts frazzled thing and like a more confident, sexy, modern thing, and also like the Drew Barrymore like in Over Her Head thing. Like it's never one performance; it's like a collection of ideas, and he's just like an empty space of hotness with a shit-eating grin. Like I think they allude to some interesting stuff with his character, with like past drug use and stuff like that, but it's only even fleeting moments. I think the thing that really just like took me out of this movie is the number of times that somebody had to overhear somebody else's conversation and just sort of like meekly ducks behind some ledge or a balcony. Like, if you could just play a drinking game for every time somebody cowers behind a corner to overhear a conversation, you wouldn't make it through this movie. I don't know, man. I don't blame Sydney Sweeney or Glenn Powell. I think the script is really the problem here, but I don't think they did anything with it. And I think maybe even some other actors could have tried to find like a through line with it. Ultimately, like, it's just Sydney Sweeney is not at a point in her abilities as an actress where I feel like
Yes.
she can carry this kind of movie. As
Damn.
much as I enjoy her.
You liked her in reality.
I like her a lot in reality, and I think she's great in Euphoria season 2. I think she's a really capable actress, but the ability to deliver a joke naturally is really difficult, and I don't think she gets there. I don't think she feels natural at all in this movie.
I'm gonna one up your drinking game and say if you add a shot for every single time a character takes off an article of clothing in this movie, you will be shot as well.
They are frequently
for
naked
no
or
reason.
half naked. Yeah.
Yeah, and if they put their shirt so it's so far away from them they can't even put it on for the next scene, 2 shots right there. Make it a double. I don't know what to tell you, man. They got me. I thought it was corny, not good. Don't get me wrong. It was not great in any way, shape, or form. But they're both too picture perfect up on screen for it to not already come off fake. Like, you understand? Oh, he's on his computer all day. Oh yeah, doing what, crunches to look at those stocks? Come on now. What was she? A lawyer? Oh yeah, you're sitting there reading all the. When have you seen a pre-lawyer this hot?
Also, like, her whole thing is sort of being not self-assured and unconfident, and yet she's just like parading around in like barely any wardrobe. That doesn't feel like a unconfident person to me, but maybe that's just me.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The whole thing is just pseudo regular people.
Yeah.
They're glowing in the middle of the night in Australia. The sun's not even out. This man can light up the water with his fluorescent teeth during that one Titanic scene. There are a lot of bits that I think work as isolated moments that don't really add for the rest of the movie because it's trying to, like you're saying, be this, oh, they're very shy. They're just regular people just trying to make it by. They're not really sure of themselves. But then at the same time, they're trying to break the fourth wall, like you were saying, with those sneakily hearing what the other people are trying to say and whatnot, because it's supposed to be based off of Shakespeare's Much Ado About Nothing. We've seen many variations of this. I think the last one I remember catching was after Joss Whedon did the Avengers. Do you remember his?
Oh yeah, was it literally called Much Ado About Nothing?
Much Ado About Nothing. He did it in the present time. It was in black and white. He got pretty much his entire cast of people, and
with that Avengers money.
Literally, the only thing that he did different was just having it be in the present, but still speaking the. I think it must be this one right here. Still speaking in Old English. I felt that this was trying to do yet again another spin, but they're going to modernize it as much as possible. And then they tried using the Old English for like fourth wall breaks where, again, the story is that these two meet each other. And after they meet each other, miscommunication causes them to fall out of love with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And then it turns out that their friends are getting married. So now they have to be reacquainted with each other. Then they're getting married remotely. So that means that they now need to spend a week together. Everybody wants to get them together so that they're not bickering, so that the wedding won't be a disaster. And in them convincing the couple to get together, they try to reconvince everybody else that they're kind of together so that they can fall in love with the people that they love. It's all this miscommunication, uncommunication things that are happening. I thought it was pretty slick the way that they tell the story to figure out who's related to who. How is it that they found this other person? There's this one sequence that they have on the plane that I think is fully out where he's arguing with her about why they didn't see each other. Mm-hmm. And he's having one conversation while she's having another conversation. Mm-hmm. They are both ditzy as can be. I thought it worked when they were having, they're playing charades with each other, right. and she's just calling him insults of what he's supposed to be and not the word that they're supposed to play off of each other. Be it because they're so pretty, be it because the settings look great, be it because I messed with the playlist. I had a decent enough time with the movie, and I think for the people who wanted to see a rom-com in theaters, I thought it worked well enough. So it's a silly movie. I enjoyed it for what it is. I'd give it a matinee.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is one that you can wait to stream it because, like, I'm pro movies like this existing, and maybe part of me responding so negatively to it is like just having to see this over the holidays, right? But I don't know, man. I I thought it was really forced. I thought that like the way they like you I don't know, the way they use some of these characters is so just like unbelievable in a sense. There's a couple moments between Sydney Sweeney and Glenn Powell where I felt like they completely dropped their characters and just sort of performed almost like themselves. And those are the moments that actually worked for me in the movie, but they just were so few and far between.
No, bro,
Yeah.
this man was swimming and she said, "Are you hot girl fit?" This man had no cardio. That's funny.
You know who thinks this is funny is American film goers. Did you see how well this movie's doing?
No, I have no idea the box office. Tell me.
So it opened to only $6 million over the Christmas holiday weekend, which is not great. It came in 4th place, but interestingly, it's kind of held on. The weekend after that, before New Year's, it stayed in the top 5, but went up to 8.7 million. And then this weekend that just ended, it again stayed in the top 5 and went up to 9.5 million. It's the first time that a film has raised its weekly gross week over week twice in the holiday season.
The Sydney Sweeney effect.
Yeah.
The Glenn Powell effect. I'm telling you.
Yeah, look, I want more movies where Sydney Sweeney runs around in a bikini. That's fine. I just wish they were better written than this one.
Make it 3D. There you go. You'll be able to top the box office right there. Look, it's not Past Lives. Don't go into it thinking you're watching Past Lives. That ain't that.
Mm-hmm.
But for the 2000s comedies that we used to get, I think this fits right in there. So
yeah, it's definitely in that
good
spirit.
wrap-up.
Yeah.
Anyone But You out in theaters. Whether you wait for it on Stream It, whether you do catch it, let us know your thoughts down below and who you would like to see as an upcoming pair, an upcoming duo. They both got a lot of movies coming out next year, so this was just like the midway through. I remember when they were releasing this movie that they said that he had gotten divorced because these two were like way too close with each other. I mean, at least they're getting some box office out of it. What was it, the Scenes from Marriage, when they did that, right? They didn't even get the awards they wanted from that one.
Yeah, nobody watched that show.
Nobody watched that show. Only clips from the show.
Yeah.
Ferrari. It is out in theaters right now. It is the newest Michael Mann movie that many people were a little too worried to go catch in cinemas just in case they got hit with a CGI car chase, CGI car explosion. I'm here to tell you, it was fake news. The CGI car explosions aren't that bad. There are 3 scenes in this movie. I'm gonna give you one of them was a miniature. You could tell that it was like the in time scene from like far away. It was a little car that they threw. The second one was it did not look that CGI to me.
Mm-hmm.
The last one was full CGI, but Zach, it was for a reason. Ferrari is the newest movie by Michael Mann that's trying to talk about the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Ferrari, and how he had like 2 lives going on at the same time. One where his wife, for whatever reason, was managing this business with him. They kind of explain it very fast in there, how she owns half of the Ferrari company, he owns the other half, and they're struggling to make it by because they're either going to need to sell with another company or continue winning races so that they could, have it be their way. That said, he's also dealing with his personal side where his wife lost a child. So now he's got Shailene Woodley doing what kind of accent, Zach?
Ferrari.
Yeah. He tried out for Super Mario Bros. She's in this movie, but she is the one lover who does have his child. Mm-hmm. So one carries his name, the business, but his child carries his blood. Yeah. You were mixed on it.
I was mixed on it because I think that a lot of the racing stuff is really riveting, and Michael Mann is a person who knows how to put together like a pretty stellar action sequence. So when the movie is really like moving, I thought it was pretty good. Those car crashes kind of took me out. I'm not as forgiving as you are with them. They just seemed really rubbery and weightless to me. But I feel like I'm in the minority of it because I've seen a lot of people critiquing the critique of those car crashes. So whatever, maybe it's not going to be everybody. I'm
gonna give you this. Maybe they fixed them. Maybe they marveled it.
Yeah, I saw the early cut.
You saw the early VFX with the floating head.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's the interpersonal stuff where I just wasn't really bought into it. I think that Penelope Cruz is like always kind of radiant and worth watching, but she's sort of reduced to angry yelling in this movie and not much else. and then the other half of his interpersonal relationships is with Shailene Woodley, just like struggling her way through that Italian accent, never really having like an ounce of believability in the role. And there's also just the weird kind of like, I don't know, inability to kind of lock down who Ferrari is for me, because this is about a man in like the later stage of his life. This is about not a young Ferrari, but an older Ferrari, like trying to grapple with his legacy. And they got like strapping Adam Driver with like a weird gray haircut. He never really sells his age correctly in this movie. Like they don't put a lot of makeup on him.
Not
So
much.
he doesn't look like
Yeah.
he's in his 60s. He looks like a 40-year-old guy who went gray early.
They zoom in on him in order to like really pay attention to like the hairline and all the makeup that they were doing with his face. But you
Yeah.
zoom out far enough and you get the presence of how old he is right now. The moment
Exactly.
you can't see the makeup, you're like, oh no, that's just regular Adam Driver. I agree with you on that end. I believe there were supposed to be sequences with him as flashbacks.
Mhm.
Now, I don't know if those are right at the beginning of the movie,
Like the 30 seconds that opens the movie.
right? Because
You
I
only
leave
find he feels age appropriate. Yeah.
and they're showing like stills of the flashback scenes in this movie. I was like, was that during the opera scene? Like, I felt like it should have expanded a lot more on him. I agree with you. This is a movie in where you're focusing on Ferrari, and it feels like the spark notes. It's yet again another Napoleon. It feels like the trailer to the mini series we're supposed to get. I keep feeling like these classic directors are turning in what should be a 5-hour project and are being asked to reduce it down to 2.5. Because I could have gotten more from the Shailene Woodley stuff, minus her accent, right? I still thought that stuff was kind of fascinating. He's dealing with his son. Is he going to be able to tell the world about him? Is he going to be able to continue to keep this a secret, especially financially, from his wife? I thought the stuff that's happening with his wife, Penelope playing her second Italian of this year, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Not terrible though. Like no one's got a critique on her accent. I
Yeah.
think she does a decent job with it. I agree with you. Very depressing role. She's just kind of moping a majority of the movie because of where he's kept her. But I thought it led to an effective final scene. I thought that was an incredible final counteraction that they have with each other on how they're going to run the business, what they're going to do with it.
Yeah.
I liked his personal side and I liked the racing. Both of them were cut in half that you don't get to fully enjoy either or.
Yeah.
I thought the ending came out of nowhere, and that's where I'm only defending the CGI use of the car crash. I immediately, I apologize, but I was in the theater. Nobody was sitting next to me. I pulled out my phone. I was like, ain't no way that happened. It is worse than what the movie tells you.
Yeah.
And the movie just flies by. So I'm out of the movie recounting things that I read, not recounting things that the movie told me.
Yeah, exactly. Like it also has sort of a weird structure to it in that it starts really like in the middle of things and it ends sort of just as a big moment happens without really giving you like a full off ramp.
Right?
And yeah, so it felt unsatisfying to me.
Yeah, it's like you're doing the race and like you made it to the next pit stop because your tire was about to fly off and you made it there and they fixed it. You can't end the movie there. What happens on the next one? Like, what are you gonna do with the company? I'm seeing in the chat some people were comparing this to other Michael Mann movies. I would agree if I pull them up right here. Just comparing to his previous ones. I'm a huge Collateral fan, like huge Collateral fan, bro.
Abby's asking if anybody else thinks that Collateral is the best Michael Mann movie, not Heat, and I'm in that boat. Maybe it's just because we're younger than some people who like caught Heat at an earlier age than we did or whatever. But Collateral was the one for me. I love that movie.
I know people really like Black Cat, Ali, another decent one. He's working on Heat too, so you know we are gonna have to do a Heat retrospective.
Also potentially with Adam Driver.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, I didn't mind their work together, so I'd be curious to see what else they're able to do next. But other than that, another question we got over here was on comparing it to other racing movies.
Yeah, like Rush came out a few years ago. I'm trying to think, like Ford v Ferrari was obviously a couple years.
Rush takes the cake. Ford v Ferrari is the one.
Christian Bale, who was in Ford v Ferrari, was originally supposed to play Ferrari in this movie.
Ooh. Should have.
I like Ford v Ferrari. I think I like that one more than this one.
I'd edge it out by a bit, yeah. But that'd be a good double feature with this.
Yeah, and I like Rush a bit more as well.
Rush clears for me easily. Where'd you put Gran Turismo?
You know what, man? I think Gran Turismo is better at what it's trying to do than this movie is at what it's trying to do. Even though this might
Oh,
be the more artful film,
uh-huh.
Gran Turismo might be more successful.
True. I can see that. Out on Netflix for Gran Turismo.
Yeah.
Ferrari out in theaters, and I would give it the junior price. I still think it's worth capturing in theaters for the racing scenes. They're not the most profound racing scenes out there, in my opinion, but it very much is a movie that's trying to get into the psyche of Ferrari and what he does to his racers. Pretty much,
Yeah.
He's a coach, really, when you look at it, right? It's mixing his businessman, his personality, but then at the same time, how he treats his racers. They're nothing but bodies to him. It's, are you going to do anything possible to win that race? A lot of elements that I like in this movie didn't excel completely for me, but I still thought it was a good movie. I'd catch it again soon.
Do you want to see it in the Oscars discussion? Because a lot of people thought it might
Nah,
be, and
I'm
now it
okay
kind of
with
looks like it's not going to
I'm
be.
okay with it. Not everything needs to be in the Oscars discussion,
Yeah.
but I'd rather this be what misses the Oscar discussion than something that doesn't even get like a mention at all. Like, like sometimes like it made the cusp of the Oscars discussion, not like, boy, what were you doing with this? Ferrari's not a bad movie in my opinion. Seek it out at some point. At some point.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it could be a stream it for me, at least.
Sounds good. All right, we still have got 476 more movies to go. The Iron Claw. We've been saying snippets of this, but you and I have not been able to gush about it together.
Nope.
You said it was good.
Yeah.
Man, this is great. This
Sean Durkin, man. He knows his way around a sad story.
This is a phenomenal movie that I have gripes with, and I'm willing to put them by the wayside because of how good this movie hits. The Iron Claw is about the Von Erich brothers, a bunch of wrestling family, really. They even had some other people who weren't really wrestlers, but they just decided to call them family as well. They've all changed their names to the Von Erichs after their father, who used to play a, let's just say, a German persona back in the day, then had all of his kids join in this family legacy to be able to get the belt, all before WWE even existed. It was WWF. They were the NWA before NWA.
Yeah,
the
this
National
is
Wrestling Association.
the regional wrestling era where they weren't even like these national kind of things overseeing it. It was all these like little shops that were run by different organizations. So
And they were like join each other. The
Yeah.
beginning, the roots of it, which is so
the
interesting
roots of
to me.
wrestling, exactly.
Yeah. I wish they got a little bit more into that. I know that these guys were famous, and I wish that the movie showcased that a little bit more, because it felt like you're saying they were like regionally famous. They can do a couple of autographs outside, and that was it. No, these guys were hounded down, and I think that maybe would have improved the movie a little bit more. I love it, but that would have improved it a bit more to understand how much pressure was on them.
Mm-hmm.
There is also, just right off the bat, some changes that are made for it to be a true story. One of them is excluding a brother from the narrative. Look, I'm gonna find a way to get my brother in there when you have a closing line as good as you do in this movie about brotherhood. You just have to make him a side character. I don't even know. Make him an uncle, but you cannot just exclude somebody. One brother cannot be mentioned through a credit at the end. My own personal opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I understand where Sean Durkin is coming from, and he ended up combining a lot of Chris and I believe it was Mike's stories,
younger guy,
so that like their trajectories are both represented, even if though only one of them's in it. So I guess to be clear, there are 5 brothers in the movie where there are actually 6 in real life.
Mm-hmm.
And like it's tough, right? Because this is such a difficult story, and it is punishing, it is upsetting, it is sad, incredibly sad to watch. And I do wonder if there comes a point where it almost like tips over a line into being self-parody. And I don't know. I can understand having issues with it, but I think the execution is artful enough and well done enough that I can excuse it.
And that's exactly what I'm getting at, man. I heard him talk about why he needed to exclude it, and I'm like, that would have, the ending of that brother's story would have also just been too much in this runtime.
Too much.
It was an executive decision. He said he talked with the brothers, and all I can say is artistically, Iron Claw is the first movie I could say is up there with Warrior for me. I don't even need to do the rest of the review. If you know what Warrior means, this is that movie, man. Shout out to everybody involved in this film. I think you and I kind of had similar standouts in this movie. First and foremost, out of the brothers, Harris Dickinson. This actor right here is next up. I don't know how else to put it. I see him in every single role that you're looking at right there on screen, and it's a completely different character every single time.
Yeah. Not to mention when we do our most anticipated movies of 2024, he's going to have a couple mentions there
That's
too.
what
So
I'm
he's
saying.
he's
Invest in
kind
the
of the
stock
guy
now.
right now. Yeah.
He is that dude. I thought he was incredible in the movie, especially for what he's supposed to be. In
Mhm.
contrast to Zac Efron's character, he blew me away. He had that charisma. He was one of my favorite. He was my favorite character in the movie. And as much as I wanted to root for him for the best actor in the movie, this man would not let up. Talk about Hope McKellney, bro. This dude killed it.
Yeah, I mean, I really fell in love with him as a performer, obviously in Mindhunter. I think a lot of
Mhm.
people did, but he's just so menacing in this sort of patriarchal role as the head of the Von Erich family, and sort of this embodiment of the poisonous nature of toxic masculinity that these kids can find some sort of like happiness for themselves through the punishment of their bodies, and it's all in pursuit of his own failed dreams, right? So
Crazy.
it's just such a tragic figure in this story, particularly because there doesn't really seem to be any kind of like remorse in it too.
He
It
believes it,
really,
right?
yeah, and it really like it's a character that really speaks to a type of person that maybe is like of a generation that's
Yes, sir.
dying out, you know, like uh a generation that is very like lunch pail. You go to work, you do your job, you come home. Um, so it's not like what he's doing isn't meant to be abuse in his eyes, I guess,
He
but it's
thinks it's
something that
survive. Yeah.
right, but it's something that we now with our modern lens can look at and see for the abuse that it is.
For the ripple effects that would come when you have one of the brothers, one of the sons asking you, "Hey, I think someone dad's being a little too harsh," and no one does anything about that. Let the brothers deal with it. And the way the brothers deal with it is damn near mourning each other. I thought his performance was incredible in the movie. Everyone else involved. I know that Zac Efron is the lead, and we have some discussions in the chat about him as a best performer of the year. I'll put it to you simply. Holt is one of the best supporting performances of the year, but
Mhm.
Zach and I already maxed out at 7. Like, there are too many good supporting performances, and I
Yeah,
still want to find a way to fit him in there, which is why our Intercut Awards are definitely going to be able to cover as many supporting performances as possible.
yeah.
He barely makes the cut, and I think he's the best performer in here. I am saddened to say that there are too many good performances this year to not be able to praise Zac Efron, bless his soul, for what is his best performance that he's done to date. I
Mhm.
don't think he's been better. An incredible performance from Zach. The physicality of it, his emotionality of it, the delivery of that final line that he gives in this movie is
Oh man,
so good,
so devastating.
but he just doesn't fit in a year stacked with so many other performances.
Yeah, unfortunately, and maybe part of it is because the Iron Claw came out so late that it's hard. Like, it'd be easier if we like slotted him in early than it is to push him down the order. You know what I mean? Like, it.
Yeah,
I don't know, but it is really like an incredible performance, and I think in a lot of ways uses his his gifts because it is such a physical performance, and part of it is just like staring at his jawline and his muscles that he can achieve that kind of physicality, but also he is so tender and kind of soft spoken and world weary in this way that I think Efron does a really excellent job of communicating. You know, I think uh, having not been someone who was super familiar with the High School Musical franchise, I'm most familiar with Zac Efron in his kind of like party
Charlie St. Cloud.
boy type of
Oh,
roles,
neighbors.
the neighbors stuff, the you know, and this is just a completely different register for him to be operating
Yeah,
in. But it's something that works so well, and you are immediately like drawn into his sadness, and you just want to like wrap him up and give him a hug in this role. He's so
yeah.
good.
Abby had mentioned, how would you compare him to another Oscar ranked movie, Foxcatcher, and where you had Channing Tatum, another character who's known for being a
Yeah.
heartthrob, and his performance there. I think those are comparable.
Yeah, I think they're actually very, very comparable roles because they are
No
both
question.
these very physical performances, but they're very like quiet, dramatic movies. They're not they're while they're about fighters, they're not necessarily about the fighting, right? or
Mhm.
I guess the wrestling, we should be a little more accurate.
The
I would
internal battles inside.
I would give the nod to Channing Tatum. I thought Channing Tatum was so
Whoa!
excellent in Foxcatcher.
You know,
Part of that
yeah,
part
maybe.
of that is because it's a little bit more of like a psychologically manipulative movie. Like the relationship between him and Steve Carell is oddly somehow more toxic and fucked up than the relationship between Zac Efron and Hope McElhaney's character in Iron Claw.
Yeah. No, it's a good performance. I think that they were both killing it in that movie, but I will, just for the sake of this, I'm gonna give it to Zac Efron
Yeah,
because there's not one line that Channing had in that movie to hit me as much as his did
true.
here.
I still think Iron Claw is the better movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Interesting.
than
Okay.
Foxcatcher.
I prefer it for sure. I'd have to rewatch Foxcatcher because that was a while ago. I mean, I saw Foxcatcher in the middle of Birdman and Whiplash. Like that was a
Yeah,
year.
that's a
That
year.
was a year.
2014. Wow.
Oh man. Another one here, I think it was Pink Sweets had said that I must not remember High School Musical 3. Oh, I remember High School Musical 3. In High School Musical 3, my boy had that one vein when he was gonna make that opening shot in the intro. My man has a vein on top of a vein in this movie. He woke up crazy, bro. When you first see him in this film, he went all out. That man is bricked up. I don't know how else to say it. He worked out way too much for this movie. I thought he was already big in Baywatch. You remember him in Baywatch?
Yeah,
He
yeah,
was
he's
trying to go
ripped
up
in
against The
Baywatch,
Rock.
but
It
this is
is
different.
this is different.
Granted, this
It's
is
crazy.
I think I would not be surprised if there's some like HGH involved in this one, but still,
Could be something involved. That montage scene was real.
yeah.
A really fantastic movie. I don't know how else to put it. I highly recommend it. This is one that would have made my top 15. I'm sure with a rewatch might even go a little higher. Like this is an incredible movie through and through. It sucks that it came out right towards the end of the year because I know that which is Martha, May, Marlene, tongue twister always for me. I know
Yeah.
that's a standout for you of that year. I was definitely pushing for the Nest because I thought that was an incredible almost kind of biopic-ish movie about this guy, the
Mhm.
director, and his parents as they were moving over. And Dead Ringers was a fantastic miniseries of this year. So we're big Sean Durkin fans here on the podcast, and Iron Claw just continues to add to that legacy.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I see a lot of people who are lamenting the fact that this came out so late in the year and it's probably not going to be in the Oscars discussion because
Who
we
cares?
decided the nominees earlier and earlier. But yeah, first of all, not that big of a deal. Ultimately, the movie is the thing that's going to have a legacy. And secondly, I think this is kind of the movie that makes Sean Durkin one of those guys that it's like, oh, his next movie is going to be nominated for Oscars, right? Like now he's
Mm,
on the radar. I don't
I
know if
see.
the Nest or Martha, Marcy, May, Marlene really put him in that stratosphere the way that the Iron Claw seems to be doing.
That's fair for sure. I saw you had one question start up, and then we'll move on to the next one.
What did I start up?
Oh,
Oh,
yeah, I found it.
yeah. Luna asked, "Do we think if the Iron Claw was a TV show, the fifth brother could have been included, or would it still be the same artistic problem?" Um, there's almost a version of this where you could imagine like each one is an episode that ends in a different brother's death. I don't know if that's just like too bleak of a show. Like I don't know if you keep tuning in to that kind of show, and maybe that's a little bit more like salacious and kind of not fitting to the material. I think one of the things that perhaps reducing the number of brothers down does is it makes it more about the actual lived experience of it and less just about like, wow, so many tragedies, right? Like it's just it becomes less of a pile-on. But I think,
But it still was though, no?
yeah,
Like not to play devil's advocate with
no,
it, but if you
true.
had like a tragedy, you're gonna be like, I don't know, that was like 2 dozen people. Can we cut it down to a dozen that got hurt in this tragedy? You can't deny the tragic part of it because
Yeah.
that's why the story stands out.
It's tough, and maybe this is something that you can only come to the correct conclusion of when you've been wrestling with the script for
Right?
2 years the way that Sean Durkin did. But I do think that I prefer this being a movie because I think particularly with things that are this sad, things that are
Yeah, it
this
needed
sort
to
of
be
like
yeah, it needs to be
upsetting,
a movie.
you kind of got to do it in one sitting. It doesn't
Yeah,
linger the same way otherwise.
that'd be ridiculous. I would only like it to be able to expand on, like we were saying, the theatricality of it,
Yeah.
how big they
Maybe
were, them in the sphere of the wrestling world.
maybe
I would
they
want
were
to see
trying
that
to
grow.
do more of like a this is what regional wrestling
That
was like in the
exactly.
80s
From their
there's some room
perspective,
for
that'd
it.
be
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah, and
Yeah.
then the repercussions of it growing to what happens to their family, that would be good. Add more brothers, kill more brothers off. That'd be great. You know what? Just go all out artistically.
Yeah.
But as it stands, with the decisions that they had to make for the Iron Claw, I think excel as a movie. I know everybody in there was involved. I know Kevin's kids themselves were part of the stunt teams there. Eddie Guerrero's brother, I think, if I'm not mistaken, was the stunt coach as well. There's just a lot of good behind the scenes for the Iron Claw. The last bit that I'll say about this, and I highly recommend it, combo price. Go see it in the theater if you can. They need to change Ric Flair, bro.
Yeah, it was a pretty bad Ric Flair impression.
That was
I gotta say.
they weren't showing him for a bit in the movie. They just mentioned him like this ghost. And then he appears, and I'm like, I understood. Got it. Nope.
Yeah.
Woo,
No,
no.
no, I mean, it's funny. Like, I've been going to some Devils games this year, and Ric
Damn.
Flair is kind of their like unofficial mascot in some
For
ways.
real?
They're always playing Ric Flair videos that after goals people go woo and
That's
stuff like
funny.
that. There are like 3 or 5 better Ric Flair impersonators in the arena at every
Wow.
game than that dude they got for the movie.
It was a little rough, dude. I'm not gonna lie, but hey, for everyone else involved, I thought it was a fantastic movie. Iron Claw, check it out wherever you can because it's one of the best movies of the year. Let's move on to what I know Zach has been anticipating for a very long time.
Yeah, I mean, look, I know that we have like a really special relationship, but I also know I will never be the number one Zach in your heart. And I'm not talking Efron.
You're the first Shevich in my heart. Zack Snyder's new movie, Rebel Part 1, is out. And look, there's one thing about this movie that I wanted to say. He has been working on this as a Star Wars movie that he gave to Star Wars, and then they said, "Here's your receipt back." They did not take that, and he's like, "You know what? I'm Zack Snyder. I can make this on my own." So he started working on what's supposed to be this very elongated thing. I heard he was working on this thing since the early 2000s, since before Dawn of the Dead, a remake that I think both you and I enjoy out of his filmography a lot.
Yeah.
I think that's the one we agree on.
Yeah.
Zach, you remember how they would pitch these movies like Twilight? 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the last book would get split.
Yeah.
Harry Potter, you want to, and then the last one will get split.
Yeah.
How is this man splitting volume 1?
I don't know. Maybe we should have reconsidered that.
That's crazy. He's like, I'm already just off the bat.
Yeah.
Part 1, part 1, part 1, part 2. Oh dear. Look, I see this as being 10 movies already. I think Netflix has gone all in, put all their chips on the table, and this is literally a commercial to what we're supposed to get. They introduce people in this movie like that. Like
just a look up to camera. Yeah.
just to look up to camera. It was crazy. I ain't got nothing to say, bro.
Yeah,
It feels like a pre-movie.
I don't know. It's weird because like it borrows so many kind of like structural beats and character dynamics from
Right?
other big space sci-fi adventure films. But to me, I felt like this is sort of like when you mix a bunch of colors together and then you get brown because it all just sort of doesn't stand out and doesn't work together. It's a pastiche that just never merits its own existence. There's no the characters all feel like, oh, this is sort of like that other character you might like, or this is sort of like that other kind of thing. This is sort of like a Death Star, and
So
this
that's
is sort of like
the Solo. That's Chewie.
yeah,
Be the princess. There's Luke.
but you just never actually care about anyone in this film. And for a movie that is already over 2 hours long, like that's pretty incredible. That like I can't tell you anything really about any of these characters. I don't know, man.
Well, they tell it for you, someone meets
Well,
them,
that's true.
and
Yeah,
they go, "Don't you know I've been doing this?" Yeah, he does know. We didn't know, but thank you for letting us know.
yeah, thank you for your 2-minute self-introduction.
Like what?
And look, I know that Zack Snyder is kind of like responsible for half of the aesthetics we see in superhero movies nowadays, right? Like he's an incredibly influential director.
Yeah, which is why I respect them.
But the slow motion shit is becoming self-parody at this point. It
Unreal,
is
bro.
ridiculous. Like I this isn't my original joke, but like you could take all the slow motion bits, put them into regular motion, and finish this movie in like an hour.
Right.
It's so
Well, they took up our
overdone. It's every other shot in action sequences, and it doesn't add to the epicness or whatever. It just kind of serves to slow things down. I don't.
Right.
I feel
In
like this.
300, you could feel it. Here,
Yeah,
you just feel it in the couch. Like it's too much.
exactly. It's way too much. And obviously, like it looks like pretty epic. It's been labored over in a way that obviously they've considered a lot of the things that go into this, but I just kind of feel like they didn't consider the right things.
I don't even hate this movie because I don't know what to feel for it. And sometimes between you and I, that's the worst of them all, right?
Yeah.
Something that you just feel like you saw part of the product and you're still waiting for the other half to fill things in. This feels like it was re-edited in post to be able to just be the primer. This feels like the episode of Legends for the MCU that you see to remind you of these characters, but you
Mhm.
just met these characters.
Yeah.
They're introducing them to you like Han and Chewie just came back in the Force Awakens trailer. I don't know who these people are. I'm glad you got another job, Cyborg. I don't know who you are.
Yeah.
You're introducing the actual bad guy right before the movie ends, but he introduces himself. A king doesn't tell you he's king. You have some interesting characters in here. I believe it's Sofia Boutella's first role. And the dynamic that they have with her is that she's kind of like in hiding, but then you realize, like, oh, her history isn't her history is a lot darker than you realize because of who she used to work for. So she's kind of got this Finn thing going on where she used to
Mhm.
work for like the bad guy and has now come out of it. You have what is
Sophia
supposed to,
Botella was in one of your favorite movies, Climax. She's been in a few things.
but this is her first lead though.
Oh, lead role. Okay, sorry. I don't
Lead
think.
role, yeah, because that's been the big thing that she's been talking about.
Yes.
And I feel bad for that, right? Because it's like,
Yeah.
but he doesn't have you doing much. And are you really the lead when we stop focusing on you and we're taking journeys with other characters?
Mhm.
When the scene is with you and who you're visiting is doing more of the talking.
Right.
Ed Screen felt like he was trying to do an Inglorious Bastards character as he walked in to some moments.
Yeah.
Again, I don't hate any of these scenes. It's just like felt like we're prepping for what part 2 is supposed to be, and that feels very weird to me. Again, I feel like this is in the franchises, you get 1, 2, 3, 4, and then when they split 5 and 6, everyone knows part 5 is going to be a little boring because it's going to set up for the climax.
Right.
This is the pre to the first movie.
Exactly. You got to get people interested from the jump. I don't want Rebel Moon 4 right now. Get me interested in Rebel Moon 1.
Yes, exactly.
And now there's a lot of people talking about this idea that Netflix is trying to sort of like artificially manufacture their own Snyder Cut movement, because they've said that this is not the director's cut, and the director's cut will be coming at some point, I guess soon, and it's going to be an hour longer. What do you think about that idea? And do you think that Netflix is shooting their own property in the foot?
So let me get this straight. Part 2 is still separate, but part 1's going to get a part
2? Yeah, it's gonna be like a Kingdom Hearts game. It's gonna be 1.5 or something.
Gotcha. So it's Rebel Moon Part 1, A Child of Fire, and then Rebel Moon Part 2, whatever. Rebel Moon Part 1, the Snyder Cut. Rebel Moon Part
Yes.
2, the Snyder Cut 2. Gotcha. Okay. That makes complete sense.
Yeah.
I too would sell 10 Taylor Swift vinyl so that everyone can collect every single color. It's ridiculous, bro.
Yeah.
This is
She
DLC to our
added some
movie.
new songs to the VOD cut.
Oh my gosh. Finish the effects on this one, then maybe we could talk. Every single thing just feels like it's on green screen and not in the
that
way
too.
that was a little bit more stylistic for 300.
Yeah,
Your movie
that
from the
too, dude.
2000s should not
The
look
movie
better than this one.
looks awful. Like there's so many scenes that it's like, is this your first time shooting on a volume?
I don't know what happened, or if he's just he's got the Peter Jackson effect, where the moment that man got a 48 frames per second camera on The Hobbits, and I'm watching it on a 4K screen, I could feel the set. I could feel the grips on set. Everything looks like they're on boxes. So I'm watching this one on my TV, and it's too high quality that I could see through the set.
Yeah.
I can see when, like you said, it's the volume, and when you're standing on a box, and there's no depth to anything.
Yeah, no depth at all. It just looks really, I don't know. It looks flat. It looks unreal. It's just a shame, dude. Because like Snyder is better than stuff like this. Like I clown on Snyder, but like he's made good movies, and he's certainly like technically adept. I think he's got to stop being his own cinematographer first and foremost.
Bro, right?
Yeah.
He's been doing that for the last couple. He pretty much just took the camera, decided to start doing it. Nah, I think there's a reason to have different roles. Don't get it twisted. If we were comparing those two, I'm going to take him, and I'm going to take Godzilla director, the creator.
Oh yeah, Gareth.
Right? I just want to make sure I don't get it mixed up with the raid because he even jokes about how that
Well,
happens.
because there's
Edwards,
two
right?
of those Gareths,
There's
right?
an
It's
Evans and there's a Evans and there's an Edwards. The
Yeah.
one from Godzilla, the one from the creator, that Gareth,
is Edwards.
he can take the camera and shoot some beautiful stuff. I saw it in the
Yes.
creator, and I saw the behind the scenes. That is him. That is his sweater holding that camera and filming those things. Look what you could get. So Zachary, what is this? I'm telling both of you. I'm asking, what is this? Hey, maybe
don't know.
part 2 will do it. Maybe part 2 will do it.
You're still on board? You want to find out what's going on that moon, on that rebel moon? I don't even know.
Oh, I don't look. I don't care. But if I gotta watch a movie for a living, I'm gonna watch the movie for a living. Rebel
Yeah.
Moon Part 2, when it comes out, it comes out. As for Part 1, A Child of Fire, I'm here to tell y'all I got nothing to say, and I don't have a score to release it on. This is exactly what I argue about Part 1's being the worst of it. If you allow the leeway for the Spider-Verses to do that, this is the worst end of that. Just because Spider-Verse is amazing does not change this concept of Part 1's like this being the worst thing out there when it comes to media, to art, to whatever Netflix is trying to do with this rollout. But Rebel Moon Part 1, A Child of Fire, soon to be preceded by Part 1, A Child of Fire, Zack Snyder cut, black and white edition coming soon.
I'm glad you agree with me on this one at least, because I was beginning to feel like the Grinch or something. Come on,
No, you're
Aquaman
still the Grinch.
Is bad. The
You're
color purple is bad. Anyone but you is bad. I guess I can still be the Grinch.
But I will agree with you on Rebel Moon Part 1.
Yeah.
There is one movie out there I won't be able to agree with you on. And it's not just because you haven't seen it, but it's because I worry you may not understand this epic journey of family that is migration. Illumination's newest and greatest movie that has come out about a family of ducks who have decided to leave their pond. Not even a pond, they live in a river. To be able to migrate through New York and through all these crazy planes to be able to get, I think, to Florida. Or actually the Caribbean is where they want to go. Zach, I think this is Illumination's best movie.
Best. And this
Zach,
is coming from a fan of a few of them, I think. No,
I think this is better than Leo.
Oh man, I mean that might be saying a little too
Zach,
much.
I think it goes Spider-Verse across the Spider-Verse. I'm gonna put it underneath, but my migration's right there though. I thought it was a really good movie. Look,
just below the Miyazaki.
Just the Miyazaki, like right below it. This is the heroine I wanted to see, Zach. Migration is the newest movie from Illumination that is pretty much just adding to their cinematic universe. You know, The Secret Life of Pets was happening within like the Minions world. It was all the pets that were there. Even Mario, now that they've got the rights to the brothers, they were going to go fix plumbing, and you could see the dogs looked exactly like the Secret Life of Pet dogs. You know that there are minions somewhere in there. Universal and Illumination are winning because not only do they have the Universal Studio rides going full out, Despicable Me, they got Mario World. They're combining everything to be in one universe. Like these ducks are just the wildlife within this world. And they do this interesting thing when they're going through New York and you're seeing bits from the past movies. They don't stop to be like, oh, look at this Easter egg right here. But if someone left garbage from another Despicable Me movie, chances are these ducks are running into it. I think that's fascinating. I think that's really cute. On top of that, the voice acting in here is fantastic.
Yeah.
Kumail plays the father. Dude, actual voice acting. You won't believe who I'm about to praise right now. Kumail comes in as the father who doesn't want the family to go anywhere because he just wants to stay back at home, right? The kids are whippersnappers. They just want to leave. Elizabeth Banks, if I'm not mistaken, plays the wife character who's willing to just go along if they're willing to. They come across a bunch of different characters. Keegan-Michael Key, always, even in Super Mario Bros., when everyone complained about the voice acting, he was the best one as Toad. He was actually in there doing something.
Right.
He comes in here as a Caribbean bird who's been trapped, who's going to be their guide if they just set him free. Beautiful voice acting. Zach, when have you heard me say Aquafina killed that voice? Never.
Never.
I am here to tell you, finally, bro, she plays this pigeon who runs the pigeons in Central Park.
Cool.
Joe Pesci-esque, bro.
Nice.
Finally, in a role where her character matters and there's depth to it, where the voice acting actually adds something to this beaten down bird who just feels like they're the vermin, as they're called, the rats of the birds out there. Every single voice actor in here, I think, actually adds some levity to it. It is embarrassing that this movie begins with a kind of like a recap that's all done in 2D, and that there's more 2D animation in an Illumination movie than there was in the latest Disney film, Wish. That should tell you everything you need to know right there. They are putting more love, care into the voice acting. They even have some musical numbers here. All of it lived up to me. And obviously, there's several moments where it gets pretty goofy. It's still an Illumination movie. Don't get it twisted. But the journey that they go on as a family, the voice acting, and the animation made it a very surprise hit for me. I'm putting it up there as one of my favorite animations of the year. Migration.
Wow.
Don't sleep on it.
And you're talking about like it mostly from like the story perspective and the voice acting
Story's beautiful.
perspective, but the visuals too. I mean, like Illumination, I find them to sometimes be hit or miss because the style can be a little bit boring, but it is like pretty beautifully rendered. Did it work for you here?
Bro, do you remember old cartoons where they would get out of a situation the goofiest way possible, and that's the reason why we watch old cartoons?
Right.
They're back. Oh my goodness, are they back? Story-wise, I would argue like, oh, what an easy way to get out of it. But it's just so funny. The mechanics, as long as you get the mechanics right about this is what happens when you jump on this ramp. Okay, got it. So when they need a Deus Ex Machina to escape, as long as you go back to what you set up at the beginning of the scene, I'm cool with it. It's funny. It's goofy.
Okay.
I would recommend it, dude. At worst case, catching this at home as a rent it is definitely worth it for the family. I would take my family out to go catch this in 3D because the animation looks so beautiful. I'd be very curious to see how it pops, especially with a lot of the bits that they do when they're trying to escape. I like Migration out in theaters.
Next week we check it out at the Gene Siskel Center, right?
Let's go, bro. The music box. Catch that one if you're looking for a good movie.
Cool.
Let's wrap this up with two Netflix. Shouldn't call them specials. Two Netflix releases that came out right at the end of the year to the beginning of the year. Well. I'll cover the first one. Zach will get the last one.
Yeah.
First one is Dave Chappelle, The Dreamer. Zach already knows. I want to sleep well, dream well. I'm not going to deal with this. I'll just wait to see what the repercussions are of this. Every time Dave Chappelle puts out a special, it's not even about the reaction that the special's going to get, because his specials are now just reactions to the last special. Sadly, a lot of it ends up just being him recapping what happened in the last special or the last thing. And it's gotten a little boring for me. This must be the most interesting one because he's still doing trans jokes in this. But now he's combining that with the Chris Rock, Will Smith. I don't know if you remember that terrorist attack that happened at the Oscars. Then he's combining it with the Hollywood Bowl stuff that he ended up going through when he got pummeled to the ground. There's a lot of really funny jokes that he does here. Specifically back in DC, where to me, his original, I don't even know if they got his specials on Letterboxd that way, but my favorite special of his is Killing Them Softly, and I do not see it on here. It is the exact same place that he had it on, and I think it's so cool to see him as Skinny Dave and then Bulky Dave in the same place. I think this is better than his last 2 to 3 specials. I think when he got his Netflix deal, he was very strong. He then kind of just kept making the same jokes.
Yeah, he kind of coasted for a bit. Yeah,
and I know people will have the split on. In this special, he decides to go at another group, mainly to prove the point that it's not about the group you go at, or I should say, it's not about punching low. He feels that it's the Chris Rock, selective outrage. You're only upset when I go here, but really when I come over here, you don't care about me dissing those people. It's just about how close I get to you. Sure, that's fine. I don't care. But like, I'm also tired of you. I want to hear new jokes from you, dude. And he does end up with some funny stories about Norm Macdonald. He ends up with some interesting tales, especially towards the end. A lot of bits with his wife coming up in the scene. There's a lot of funny moments here that I think makes it better than a lot of his previous specials, but not as strong as the first half of his career or even the beginning of his Netflix rollout. But he seems to be getting back up there. My brother was almost going to go see him in Florida on the 26th. I took too long to respond to him about whether he was a top comedian right now. So he didn't get the tickets. The 10 minutes expired on his Ticketmaster account. Turns out on that day, December 26th, someone snuck in a phone to that performance. Man got so pissed off. 10 minutes into the set, he walked out.
Saved you a bunch of money right there.
I told my brother, I respond in God's time. He didn't go
Might
see that. I
enjoy
hope they got their money back.
Yeah.
I just told him, hey, it's out on Netflix now. You'll be able to see the whole thing from the comfort of your house. No worry if he leaves or not. But Dave Chappelle's still a comedian I would want to see in person. I have not had the chance to see him, and hopefully he's got new material when it comes to the new stuff.
Yeah, that's
I've
the
heard it's a
thing
hit or
with
miss sometimes with him
that's the thing with
in
Chappelle,
person.
right? Is that like he is one of our most generationally gifted comedic minds who has made some of the most iconic funny bits in memory, and he is also somebody who has his like his hangups and his obsessions and his like petty grievances that he
Yeah.
does not seem to be willing to put to the side. And I don't know, my balance between my willingness to like enjoy the comedy and my frustration with the aspects of his personality that I don't agree with, it just like blocked me from wanting to catch this in the last I think special. But I don't know, man. I maybe I'll just try to catch the clips because you said there's some good stuff in there.
There's some good clips, but I will say, as a comedian, he works better as a whole set. There's this one joke he does
Right.
early on about the submersible. It's not
Oh,
funny,
right.
but the way he brings that
The
joke back
callback.
later,
Yeah.
very, very, very funny. And on a rewatch, he slips in an early joke in the submersible one. So you know how he writes. He's doing a lot of that type of writing, and for that, I do think it's worth catching. If you've been offended by the previous stuff that he said, he just doubles down on that, and it's just not as funny as the other jokes that he's made in the past for me. But Dave Chappelle, The Dreamer, that is out on Netflix alongside what Zach was able to catch, which was Good Grief.
Yeah. This is a Netflix original that is directed by and also
Wait,
starring Dan Levy. It's his feature
I did
film
not
debut.
know.
Yeah, so coming off of Schitt's Creek, he's got a little bit of sway, a little bit of power to make what he wants, and he's casting himself as the lead in this film that is about grief and processing the loss of a loved one. It stars some really interesting actors, including Ruth Negga and Himesh Patel, both of whom I like quite a bit, but they are not given a whole lot of room because this is really the Dan Levy show. Levi, I think it's Levy.
Mhm.
He is trying to cast himself in a more serious tone than he did on Schitt's Creek. He's the dramatic lead of this movie that has got a slice of like quality to it. So he acts somewhat natural and a little bit charming in this, but it's not a comedy. And ultimately, I think that movies like this one that try to depict the difficult process of coming to accept that a loved one has died. Um, Movies like this are useful in a lot of situations. I think if you are grieving yourself, or if you've experienced something similar to this type of loss, like I anticipate that you would find something valuable here. Beyond that, I just don't know if this movie has anything real to say about the situation. Like, yeah, the kind of thesis statement here is that you have to keep on living your life. That feels like the most rote, basic kind of takeaway you could take away from the process of grieving. Like that's a very like greeting card level type of theme to be going for. I think this is mainly meant to be kind of like an actorly showcase for him, given that he's written himself the central part and really given himself a lot of like dramatic weight to carry. But I don't know if he does it in a particularly interesting way. It's mostly Dan Levy like walking around beautiful cities, kind of pouty. And I don't know. I mean, I just didn't find it to be that deep or that meaningful. It's fine. It's sweet, I guess. But I don't know if it's necessarily worth your time. You're muted right now, by the way. Your microphone.
There was sirens coming down.
Oh, thanks.
Levi had sent them. He did not like what you had to say. But if you want a good grief movie, this one's out on Netflix. Cool poster.
Yeah. I mean, look, there's an artfulness to it, and I do think that like Himesh Patel and Ruth Negga are both really charming in their kind of
Ruth was charming in the
roles.
beginning. Yeah, I didn't get to
Yeah,
finish it, but she looked good in it.
just not enough there.
I didn't know he was directing himself to be pouty. Now that I know, I find that so
Mm.
funny. Like,
But this is the thing, like I think movies like this come along every now and then, right? Like you were reminding me about the one that starred Jim Parsons
yeah,
called spoiler alert, that Michael Showalter directed a
that one
couple
was good.
years ago.
I like that one.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, like, look, there are better movies about grief out there, and I would suggest you watch those. But like the one that this actually really reminded me of was, I don't know if you remember Cake, starring Jennifer Aniston, which came
Mm,
out like several
mhm.
years ago, 2014, speaking of great movie years. And it's another one where she plays this this woman who is like she's a widower, and she's sort of struggling to get back to her life, and it kind of just wallows in the sadness for 90 minutes until
Mm.
the actor decides to like make a change. And I don't know, I think I think there are more interesting, more nuanced depictions of the grieving process that you can turn to in film.
Very fair. Let us know your favorite grief movies down below. Drop a letterbox list. Let us know
Yeah,
what makes you cry until you're dehydrated. But from there, that is pretty much all of our weekend must-watch
yeah,
selection. The
no
entire
boys, no
watch
boats
list
for
there.
us.
Look, the boys in the boat left the harbor before we were able to capture it. So I'm waiting for the VOD on that one. How long is that one? Because we tried playing a game of can you name 4 George Clooney movies in between our must watch lists? And I think we got a couple.
Yeah, I can do it, but
Go
it's
right
only
now.
because we did it recently.
Zach's on the record. Go. Do not
I
look at
mean,
the other screen, Zach.
okay, so it's Confessions of a Dangerous Mind.
That's one.
It's Good Night, Good Luck.
Good night. Good luck.
Suburbicon was the disaster. And then he did, I don't think Money Monster was him, right? Did he do Ides of
Wow.
March?
Whoa, yo, you're like
Whoa.
me. I also mixed that one up. That is that is 4 right there. The Ides of March. He did Midnight
Monuments
Sky,
Men.
Monuments, man. Yeah, a lot of good
Yeah,
ones right there. I
Midnight
give
Sky is the one that I will never remember. Like, you
he
ask me
doesn't
that
even
again in
remember
2
it.
minutes, and I won't remember the
It's ridiculous.
title.
Alina said the tender bar in every single iteration except the tender bar.
The Tender Pub,
The
the Loving
tender
Bar.
love, everything but the tender bar. Leatherheads. I believe this one is to blame
Oh,
for John
jeez.
Krasinski becoming a director. He was a writer on here with Matt Damon, and
Yeah.
since then he's like, yeah, I think I could do this, and now he's making movies on
So
Invisible.
George Clooney is to blame
Friends.
for If.
If
Got it.
if it's no good, he's to blame. If it is, he's still to blame. But George Clooney, new movie out. We'll capture that. We'll run it back whenever the movie comes out on VOD, or
Yeah.
maybe I'll capture it at some point. But curious to know your thoughts down below. As always, we go through all of the movies that come out and then pinpoint which ones are the must watch, especially when it comes to our picks of the week that are coming right after this.
Yeah.
I saw a movie that people kept mentioning. Don't worry, I got it in my top 3 over here. We'll always cover the best out there. You know this if you've been around for the podcast. But first is the most important part, even most important than the movies, because the movies are nothing if there's not someone watching. And this podcast is not nothing if there's not someone watching. So a big shout out to the Inner Cutie patrons.
Yes, let's do it. Let's thank those wonderful people, the Intercuties, who support the show over on patreon.com/intercutpod. They are in the Academy: Tushar, Cademan, Connor, Josh, May, Ricky, Joe. We got Wiley back, and Benji. And then, of course, the producer level patrons, Yuden Veer and Tune. A huge thanks to all of you who help support the show and keep us going. They have done so by going over to patreon.com/intercutpod, where you can choose a membership and join us for patron benefits like early access to certain Intercut episodes, access to private channels on the Intercut Discord, and an invitation to our monthly patron Google meetings, the next one of which we might be doing from Sundance. We still got to figure that one out. But there's all sorts of patron benefits that you get, particularly cool stuff like certain videos early or exclusively. We just released our best movies of the year, and in conjunction with that, we put out a video where Art, Amanda, and I discussed our 2023 Letterboxd statistics, including our most liked reviews of the year. So, Art, your most liked review?
No hard feelings.
What was the
Where does it
review?
People are sickos because I
Sorry.
called it Licorice Pizza by Judd Apatow. And that had people going, yeah, I'm not going to watch it. And then other people going, just bought my ticket, which is the craziest thing.
I can see it too. Most liked review, Guardians of the Galaxy. Hooked on a feeling, and that feeling is emotional damage.
That is your best review. I know you like writing a lot, but that was your best review, bro.
The cool thing about Kaleidoscope is you can watch the episodes in any order and it's still bad.
It's
Through and through.
to the point, right?
It's perfect. It's
bad.
perfect.
So yeah, all sorts of patron benefits over at patreon.com/intercut. Head over there and sign up before our next patron Google meeting to come hang and talk Sundance movies with us.
It's gonna be good. It's gonna be good.
Yeah.
Let's talk about our coming attractions, all the movies
Do it.
for what's going to be the biggest week in January. I think it's going to be the second week. There seems to be a lot. And then luckily, we always check right before we're in Utah. Is there something coming out? You know, last year was missing. There's always like this one big movie. It's going to be Miller's Girls this year, which seems like it's going to be kind of big, but at least we have some decent ones coming out right before we head out, beginning with Echo, the newest movie. Not even a movie, technically a series, but a mini series where all the episodes are dropping at once. They're not doing the weekly like Loki or WandaVision or anything. They're like,
I want you to binge
on a January at home. And it's like the only superhero thing people are going to get until the spring. So I don't know if you're curious about this one, but they are pitching it as the first TVMA for Disney Plus.
Yeah, that's sort of like a diversion for most of these MCU properties that go for like the more family friendly TV 14. Echo was a property that kind of like notably had a lot of production issues. They slashed the episode order number and they changed it, as you mentioned, from something that was more family friendly to that TVMA.
We'll see.
I don't know, like it's a bunch of signs that could either lead to you to think like, oh, this is like a really messed up production that they are just dumping in January, or like they rerouted and figured out a much better path forward. And you know, from the look of the trailer, I think a lot of people were excited about what they're getting in this one. So I know we got sent a couple episodes. I didn't get around to watching them, assuming you didn't get around to watching them either. But they will be up, as you mentioned, in their entirety on Disney Plus this week.
So we should be able to get some early reviews out before we leave to Sundance to get all that out on that week. So then when we're at Sundance, there's also people asking, we'll be doing our same live streams in the same way, but letting you know, hey, here's a really quick Monday. This is what we've seen. Catch this from early screeners. This is what we've seen. Catch this midway through. So if you have your award passes or anything, if you're doing virtual Sundance, we're going to keep you up to date there. We are not getting this one early, though. Ted, the limited event series, I find it funny that event series is the new phrase streamers are using.
Limited series isn't catchy enough anymore, and they abandoned miniseries a whole lot.
They're an Olympic event now at some point. I don't know when this happened, but they're doing a prequel to Ted. Are you excited for this in any way, shape, or form? Are you a fan of Ted 2?
Look, I mean,
Theodore?
the Ted movies weren't great, but I chuckled at them. I'm pretty sure I remember chuckling at them. Yeah. And I saw this poster and I saw it was happening. I was like, that's stupid. Why are they doing this? And then I saw the trailer and I laughed twice. So maybe I'll check it out.
Hey, it's an event series. Why would you miss it? It's going to be on Peacock. Check that out if you are interested.
I feel like people in general are sort of coming back around on Seth MacFarlane. Like he was obviously like very popular when he first came out. And then he got like 20 different animated shows at the same time and people got tired of his style.
Yeah.
And now he's been around for enough years that people kind of appreciate it again.
Right? It's the Simpsons thing where it's like, oh, I guess what he said in Family Guy was right. And now people use Family Guy clips as their whole like punchline for some bits. And it's like, okay, that's just a Family Guy punchline. But now it's acceptable. Yeah. People are going back to that Oscars bit that he did that they hated.
Right?
Turns out he was right. Yeah. For a lot of those musical numbers that he did.
Yeah. I was going to say one of the funniest bits in Jury Duty only exists because of Family Guy.
Oh, you finally caught up?
I did got up with the whole like racist juror thing, getting out of jury duty by saying you're racist. That was because a Family Guy joke.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. They owe some money then. Moving on to some stuff that is in theaters. I got to catch this one early. They had a Saturday release, early screening. I swear they paid for people to be in the theater, bro. Every single time a B pun was said, there was a guy in the back cheering, just wooing. He would say, "Hive mind, woo!" It's gonna stink. Woo! They went crazy for it. This is the newest one from David Ayer. They've been pushing this as being from the guy who wrote Training Day, Furies. I don't know why they keep pushing Suicide Squad, but that's on there. He's wearing it like a badge of honor. The Beekeeper is decent. It's your decent January release. Hell, I would even say it'd be a pretty good August release. It stars Jason Statham as a guy who tends to bees and also works for a thing called the Beekeepers, which is like it's CIA, FBI, and then they're like, that's the government's Batman. One guy who's allowed to do whatever he wants, Mission Impossible style, and he goes fixes the cracks that are out there. He's kind of like John Wick, but he's retired. And he's like, no, I got to come back in. I got to unretire because there's some scammers out there scamming old ladies. So if you wanted to see what the Wolf of Wall Street would be if Jason Statham appeared and beat everybody up, Beekeeper's right up your alley.
All right.
Decent,
look,
decent in Dolby.
Yeah, like I am there for like a schlocky Jason Statham action movie as long as it doesn't feel like offensively stupid. And this one doesn't feel like offensively stupid.
Just stupid.
Yeah.
Mean Girls is also coming out. Is it a musical? Who knows? We'll have to wait and see if this Broadway adapted musical is a musical because they won't let you know in the trailers. But
Nope.
I'm coming around to it. You know, I think Angry Rice, she's funny.
Yeah.
She's decent in Spider-Man. She's hilarious in The Nice Guys.
Totally.
What was the one that she did on her own? I thought Honor Society was pretty good with her. I think she has some comedic chops. You also have, and it took me to like the second, third trailer. I'm seeing her right here as well. Moana's in it. She's been pretty funny. I thought she was great in Crush. But we went to go see a play starring the one and only.
Oh, I didn't
Bruh,
realize that's who that
It
was.
took me a couple of
Yeah.
trailers. I'm looking over at Alina, who's been binging the soundtrack. She loves the music from the play when
Oh,
we
really?
want to go see it.
Yeah, you guys actually saw it on Broadway.
You saw it with us, bro. You bought the tickets.
Wait, not this one. Mean Girls I didn't see. This one.
No, we saw Mean Girls on Broadway. She's not
Yeah,
been
yeah.
playing Mean Girls. She's been playing the one he was in.
Oh, shoot. What is it called? That's going to bother me.
I'm blinking on it too right now, but it won the Tony. I
Yeah,
was
I'm
like,
gonna
bro,
look it
if we're going to go see one movie, it's got to be this one. Or if we're going to go see one play, it's
Strange
got to be
Loop.
this one. She's been playing Strange Loop nonstop.
Yeah.
The trailer plays and I go, bro, that's the guy from the music you've been listening to. She goes, no, it's not. Pulls up the guy who wrote the play. She goes, not him. I'm like, that's the guy who made the play. It's Jaquel. It's him. If this is going to be a musical and he's in it and this guy's voice is freaking incredible,
Mm-hmm.
then maybe they're just saving the music till you pay for a ticket. It's got to be.
Yeah, I hope. I don't know. I mean, did you like the music when you saw Mean Girls on Broadway?
I don't remember. I thought it was fine. People hated it. I know people hated the Broadway play.
Some people hate it. There's some people who like it.
I don't think it was worse.
I don't really know who to like trust because their opinions are so split on it, you know?
I think it all depends on if you got the jokes. I went and they did a Jay Cutler joke. Who's buying tickets on Broadway for a Jay Cutler joke? So
Yeah.
I don't think it's that it's bad. It's just that they were making jokes that didn't matter to them. So then I also had a couple where I was like, I don't know what that means to me. I don't consider that a bad Broadway musical. I consider that a musical that doesn't understand its niche. And considering that they're rolling this one out, a movie called Mean Girls that's all about being your true self and they're hiding what the true self of the movie is a little funny of a rollout. But look, I'm interested in it because I think everyone involved is funny. They're bringing back a lot of the originals, including what's her name? She knew to stay on board. Tina Fey. No, Tina Fey. She knows, hey, I was in the first one. I wrote the first one. I'm going to stay on this one. So I'm excited for it. There's going to be some pre-screenings on Wednesday. So if you're curious, check that out. Mean Girls in theaters this weekend. What would be my pick for the week is the Book of Clarence, bro. I'm not even going to say anymore. Just watch the trailer. This looks hilarious. It's going to be in theaters courtesy of Sony. Yeah. I've got my tickets already ready. If my brother's excited for a movie, that's when I go, oh, okay. Those trailers are working. I'm very excited for the Book of Clarence.
Yeah, I mean, I think Lakeith Stanfield is also kind of like the perfect guy to be at the center of a project like this.
And RJ Seiler, those two look like they're going to be up to no good.
Yeah, absolutely. Their delivery is well suited for a project like this, I think.
Exactly. Wrapping up some of the other ones that are coming out. The Settlers, Los Colonos, did not end up making the short list. Did end up making the short list. We'll be discussing it. No. Yeah. It's another good one that we thought was fantastic out of the festivals and would look beautiful up on the big screen. Another one that's coming out to Netflix is Lift. What do you know about this one?
So I saw some people saying that this was actually like a really hotly bid over script. Like it's a
Which is why it's
pretty
coming out.
excellent script. And I saw some of those same people being like, I never pictured Kevin Hart as the lead
Wow.
of this movie. It's a heist movie and it's written like a classic heist movie, but it stars Kevin Hart and they've kind of given it this sort of like Netflix comedy look and edge. I don't know. I'm hoping that like they Kevin Hart has checked a lot of his like mannerisms at the door and is just sort of like
Right.
taking an acting role, but I kind
Sure.
of don't think that's what we're gonna get.
It's F. Gary Gray though.
Yeah, who's hit or miss. You know, I definitely think there's been movies of his that I've liked quite a bit, like Straight Outta Compton, and there's movies of his that haven't liked quite as much. And he did an Italian Job, so he knows his way around a heist movie.
Yeah, but that was on the ground. We'll see how he is up on a plane, bro.
Yeah.
Role play coming to Prime January 12th as well. What do you know about this one?
Not much beyond the cast, which has David Oyelowo and Kaylee Cuoco. They're like a suburban couple who have a secret life as or she
Ooh.
does as assassin for hire. So it's
Gotcha.
not so much Mr. and Mrs. Smith, just like Mrs. Smith, I guess here. But
You got the screeners to that?
I did. I haven't started watching them yet.
So they're
though,
just putting the same Citadel,
they're
Mr. and Mrs.
priming the
Smith,
tank.
role play. It's just the same story.
Yeah. One of these will hit.
One
We
of
keep
them will.
trying, and some of them will go hit.
All right, role play. But this one's a movie though, so if you're curious in that one, check
Yeah.
that out.
And
Shutter's
then
got
the
this.
last one.
Yeah,
Oh,
what is
sorry.
this?
No, you Destroy All Neighbors is just a Shutter original. I've been getting
okay.
1,000 emails over. So if you are looking for that early year horror fix and you don't want to go to the theaters for Night Swim, there is a new horror movie up on Shutter. It's just this last one that I remember you telling me about several
Yes,
months
I
ago.
did. Why did it make a short list?
I think it is Tunisia's entry to the Oscars, although
Yes,
it did
sir.
not make the short list.
Oh,
It is now available on VOD and digital
Damn.
Under the Fig Trees.
Yes, Under the Fig Trees is a fantastic movie. I would highly recommend it. We got to catch this in Chicago last year, at like 2022, if I'm not mistaken. This was a movie that was also being released alongside Alcaraz, which was, I believe, Spain's submission. It was a South American submission that was coming out. If I'm not mistaken, Under the Fig Trees is also going to be played. Let me pull it up right here. I got you. Hoopla. This bad boy's out on digital, but
Ooh.
if you can get a free
Shout
subscription
out
to Hoopla,
libraries.
this is a special movie. I thought it was very good. I preferred it over Alcaraz. Very similar stories about families and different people who are literally just working these fields. And it's all of their intertwining relationships since the last time that they all came to work on these fields. I think it's a very well written, very well acted movie and beautifully shot as well. So put that one on your radar. Thanks for mentioning it. I was going to put it as one of my recommendations, but yeah, you did me one better. So that is all of the coming attractions. Let's get into our picks of the week. I am starting
Yes.
off with one that you can get for free on YouTube. I'm calling it the Katt Williams special on Club Shay. This man damn near gave us a 2.5-hour comedy special for free. Did you hear anything about this, Zach?
I mean, I've heard lots of little things about it. I haven't had the 2.5 hours to sit down with it. But I
man.
love that Katt Williams has kind of just turned into this like, person who appears once every 5 years to tell an hour's worth of truths before like absconding off to some unknown location.
Bro, this was so funny. He's wrong for a lot of it, but he's truthful for a lot of it too, I guess. Every single person who he called out on. Y'all need to understand that you responding to him is art of war material. If you respond to what he said, he's winning.
Yeah.
If you respond to what he said and all you're doing is repeating what he said, it sounds like truth now. You need to get back at him in the funniest way possible. I agree. He said some outlandish stuff. He said he read like 3,000 movies or 3,000 books
3,000 books
a year. That makes no sense. He started
Yeah.
talking about some comedians not being in certain places at once. I think it's entertaining. I listened to this on the way back from Tennessee on that 8-hour drive, and it flew by. He is hilarious. If you have not listened to any of Shannon Sharp's stuff, you need to. This stuff, his podcast is hilarious. The one that he had, I think it was Ocho Cinco, just funny stuff through and through.
Yeah, he's really made a like interesting space for himself in this kind of like unafraid to say it, but actually has like some authority to back it up. You know, like he obviously kind of the Skip and Shannon show is sort of what I think helped blow his profile up to a whole other level. Obviously, he was a player before all
Yeah.
of that, but that's the thing. It's like unlike Skip Bayless, who just says
Skip.
like whatever random
Skip,
bullshit
yeah.
comes into his mind.
Yeah.
Like you know, Shannon Sharp like has connections and has experience and has
And is
all this
funny.
like authority, and yeah, and it's just clever and fun too. Yeah.
What was the one that he had with what's his name? Bottoms Seahawks.
Oh, with Marshawn, shoot,
Dude, the Marshawn Lynch one was so funny. Just the
Yeah.
stories he was telling about not Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers and stuff.
Yeah.
Really good stuff. I have to put this as my pick for the week. He talks a lot of smack about other comedians, but also movies. He gets into Friday After Next and just like how movies are run and different stuff. As much as you want to believe him, as much as you don't want to believe him, I found the whole thing to be entertaining. Another secret special right there from Katt Williams over on Club Shay Shay. My next one. True movie through and through. We've been waiting for this one for a minute because I know it was going to be a submission. I think the director, Jay Boyona, is a fantastic director. He's been doing a lot of good stuff out there when it comes to independent movies. I freaking love The Impossible. I still, to this day, hold this as being Spider-Man's best role. What's his name?
Tom
Tom
Holland?
Holland.
Yeah.
Incredible. He's got a Iron Claw line in this when he's looking for his brothers. It's beautiful. I also think The Orphanage is one of the best horror movies out there. Even rewatching Fallen Kingdom, I didn't like it a lot more, but I respected the horror elements that he brought into this. Society of the Snow is a thriller through and through about a real story where a group of players ended up crashing in the Andes, sorry,
Yeah.
and it's about their survival. Through and through, this will hit you with some gut-wrenching stuff. This is like that first season of Yellow Jackets, all condensed into 2 hours. The performances in here are pretty good. The way that it's shot is fantastic, but it's his direction that makes it. You'll just see them just trying to survive a night, and then they just get hit. It's like waves, but it's avalanches. The survival of what they go through, I thought was pretty riveting, and just the way that they compare a lot of the stuff that happened in the real life story to how they portray it in the movie was pretty good. I would have caught this in theaters because I think the sound design is fantastic and you can enjoy that at home. But being in a cinema is the correct way to watch this movie. I wish that they rolled it out a little bit better and not just like the last release of the year. Like this and the Chappelle one, they just like shuttle past it.
Yeah, I
it
think
deserves more
that
attention.
what they're going for is a similar path to what was the German war movie from last year? All Quiet on the Western Front, where that was like a really, really late into December Netflix release. And I think it just dropped at the right time that a lot of people, as they were getting ready to do their awards voting, they caught it and they were voting on it. And there's this like surge where this movie that not a lot of people thought would be in the Oscars race ended up getting like several nominations, that being All Quiet on the Western Front. So I don't anticipate Society of the Snow is going to have the same trajectory, but people are really responding to it. So time will tell.
Yeah, this is one that Netflix should have put more behind it. Clearly they saved it, but I think that was a bad route to go when releasing the movie. But check it out. It's available at least for everybody.
Are you hoping that it ends up getting nominated? Because it did make the short list of 15 foreign films.
Hey, we are stacked with foreign films. We're going to be covering this, as Zach mentioned, in our upcoming Golden Globes one. We'll be talking about the comedian on that show as well. We'll be talking about a lot of things for the Golden Globes, so I'll expand more there. But I wouldn't mind it because it's that good of a movie.
Nice. Yeah, I'm eager to catch up with this one. It's just the 2.5 hour runtime was a little more than I could chew off.
And it's a heavy movie, yeah. So when you do, when the snow blizzard hits y'all again in New York, sit down, bro. It's gonna be perfect. 40 exit. And then my final pick is just honestly a threefer from Prime. If I may, Prime picked up some big ones, dude. There was a movie from South by called Deadland. I got to watch this on the road trip over to Tennessee. Pretty decent movie about this border patrol who ends up finding like a ghost that they have to uncover, and whether they decide to put him in the system or not ends up reflecting back on his father who was never there. Dude, some pretty trippy stuff. This was one I had missed, and I'm glad I finally caught it because I think this is an underrated gem that I would have put on our hidden gems. One Fine Morning, another one that got kind of lost in the mix. I don't know if you've caught this one yet, because I know when we were catching it in New York and in Chicago, they were very skimpy on who was going to get links for this. Then it got a VOD release. No one really got to see it. Finally, on Prime as its streaming release. Highly recommend this one. This is just one of those French movies where you're following somebody in a very melancholic state. Yeah, they're finding new love. Dad's also dying. And only an actress like Lea Seydoux can go through both emotions perfectly. But if I had to pick one to really wrap up my top 3, it's Return to Soul, dude. Return to
Yeah.
Soul finally has a streaming release, and this was one that we loved 2 years ago. It's finally out for people to catch, and boy, if some of you did not like Past Lives for whatever reason, watch this, then rewatch Past Lives. Maybe it'll put you on that wavelength
Yeah.
you need to be. This is an incredible movie. It was one of my favorites of last year, so it kind of got the hidden gem treatment this year because of its rollout. It's finally out for many to stream over on Prime before they start charging you for those ads for an extra $2.99. Catch Return to Soul. It is a fantastic movie. I know Zach would give it a thumbs up as well.
Absolutely. I don't think I've caught this one since I saw it in the New York Film Festival. What is it, like 2.5 years ago now?
84
And,
years, yeah, something like that.
yeah, I mean, it was so effective and moving, and it's one of those movies that has only grown in my estimation since I've seen it. So
Yes,
I'm
sir.
really eager to revisit it. I don't think I've had the chance to show it to Caitlin yet. So I think I know what our weekend
Oh,
plans are going to be.
oh hell yeah, bro! You have to. This
Yeah.
is like when people see Joyride and there was some heart in there. Yeah, Return to Soul. That's full heart right there. That's the movie right there. I've been
Yeah.
seeing so many inklings of this movie and elsewhere. I always call back to this one as well. One of my favorite dance scenes in a movie as well. And I'm not a person who likes
Yeah.
dance sequences, and this is a standout. So that says a lot to me. Return to Soul.
Totally.
What do you got?
All right, my first one is going to be on Hulu on January 12th. This is the
Nice.
directorial debut from one Jake Johnson, Reliance. We caught this movie back at South by Southwest last year, and I think we both had a really fun time
There we
with
go.
it. A very fun movie about a guy who gets recruited into this crazy like dark web style game where a man has to stay alive for 30 days, and if he can, he gets awarded $1 million. The catch is he can't be killed as long as he's with someone. So if he can convince the people in his life that all of this is real, he'll stand to win $1 million. And I
But
think
even before that, they want to spend time with him, and that's what makes it so funny.
I mean, it's a great showcase for Jake Johnson, who I think is like an incredibly endearing performer in just about everything. But here, particularly, he does a great job of sort of riding the line of sanity. Like everything he says is totally believable from a sane person and believable from an insane person's perspective, right? The family dynamics are really fun. There's some incredible cameos. The trailer cameo that gets spoiled of Andy Samberg just launches you into a really fun full movie. I think this is like a great like Hulu discovery. There'll be people who like don't realize there's a new movie with Jake Johnson and Anna Kendrick out and stumble upon it this weekend and just have a great time. I think it does run out of steam a bit towards the end, but I laughed out loud several times, and that's basically all I can ask for from a movie like this.
It had a good ratio, and I would also argue that the other cameo in the credits, I still think is one of the funnier ones. They ruined one in the trailer, but I hope they save that other one.
Yeah. Another recommendation I'm going to have is for The Curse, which just had its 9th episode. The finale airs later this week on January 15th. I mean, look, we talked about this show a few times already on the podcast. We both put it on our best TV of 2023 list, which you can go watch now. It's Nathan Fielder. It's Benny Safdie. It's an incredible Emma Stone performance, just maybe even better than her Poor Things performance, which is also great.
I thought she was going to win 2 at the Globes.
I thought so too.
Right?
Yeah,
she thought so too.
There's a million things that we could like dive into in the show. I still kind of think it'd be great to do a spoiler after credits for this once that finale drops, because it's just endlessly entertaining and rich and I don't know. The just Nathan in particular it's a type of character that is so uncomfortable to watch, but he goes to these incredibly real places that I'm just his ability to articulate them is so impressive to me and so funny. Yeah, man, I hope people are catching up with the show, because I don't know how many people have Showtime. I don't know how many people have Paramount Plus with Showtime, but this is a hilarious show.
Agreed.
All right, so I had 2 comedies of increasing cringeworthiness so far, but perhaps the most cringy comedy I'm recommending is my last one. This is a short that's available now on Connor O'Malley's YouTube channel. It is called The Mask. It is a 25-minute comedy that he's put out documenting a character he's created called Tyler Joseph, a aspiring short form comedian who wants to be on Whose Line Is It Anyway, who through his relationship to posting online becomes indoctrinated in conspiracy theories and ultimately a deranged raving lunatic. And I think that this is both like a hilarious and absurd showcase for the type of humor that makes Connor O'Malley one of the most unique voices in internet comedy out there, because he does outlandish things. He's got a sort of deranged perspective, but he does it all from a place that, and it feels like it stems from a reality. These characters are taking actions that are all just like half a step away from people that you've seen online. I saw someone who described this as like about the type of people who you accidentally get into a conversation with and then try to leave that conversation immediately. Like it's so funny, but I think it's also kind of beautiful and tragic in this other way, because it is a portrait of loneliness and radicalization in the internet age, as only someone like Connor O'Malley could put together. Unless you think that this is just some like slapdash internet video, this is like an epic project. If you in one point, Colin Mockery shows up in this movie, and this has been in the works for a long time. He uses the actual TMZ clip that they, I think, sort of like covertly slipped to TMZ over a year ago. When was the public? This was November 2021. So 2 years ago, they were already working on assembling all of this footage for this short film. And like, if you look at it now, it's quite obviously a staged clip, but TMZ ran with it like it was real anyway.
What the heck?
I mean, it's just the level of detail that he puts, the way that he's able to use the internet and internet trends as a way to kind of situate you in a time and place. Like, you'll see him try as his character Tyler trying to capitalize on an internet trend and realize, oh, this was like 3 years ago because that was popular 3 years ago. I think it's like a genuinely incredible bit of filmmaking that is unlike just about anything else that you see out there right now. He's a completely singular voice, and like, it's worth getting on the Connor O'Malley train now, because at some point somebody's going to be crazy enough to give him money for a feature film, and it's going to be one of the most incredible debuts we've ever seen.
I mean, he's been a standout for a couple of these movies. Like,
Yeah,
he's got very tiny own bodies. I don't even remember him in Palm Springs.
Yeah, he shows up.
We're about to see him at Sundance.
He's a writer on Joe Pera Talks to You, and he's very funny there too.
Bro, tell me why I have 3 shorts downloaded on youtube.com, the app, and one of them is this short because it appeared on Letterboxd, and now you have it on your recommended.
I don't know. Like, did you discover this on your own, or did you see me put it up?
No, I saw it on its top highest rated Letterboxd movies out there right now.
Oh, I'm so glad that people are responding to it, man.
I did not watch it because I'm like, I don't know what this is.
There's going to be a lot of.
So now I have to watch it. You understand?
Yeah, that? And I can't wait to hear your reaction, because you are going to find it very strange. There's a lot of people who are going to get 2 minutes into this thing and click away and never want to see another Connor O'Malley video again. I think it is like the height of internet comedy brilliance. I think it's so cool.
You give it a thumbs up. I'm curious now.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure.
He's also got a weird Drake parody AI thing on his channel that I think you would enjoy, but that's a whole other video.
I'll have to check him out. Okay, sounds good. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So yeah,
right.
Going back through the picks,
I've got movies. Let's begin with. Oh, I don't even have it here. Sorry. My first one wasn't a movie. My first one is a special that's really a podcast. It's really just 2 guys drinking, calling out everything in the indie industry, with Katt Williams being on Club Shay. Shay, do yourself a favor, because a lot of stuff that was trending this weekend was because of this man. This man had Kevin Hart, Tiffany Haddish, Cedric the Entertainer coming out just to respond to the stuff that he was saying in this podcast. Hilarious stuff. The next one that I have is Society of the Snow over on Netflix. If it's playing in a theater near you, that'd be a miracle, because that's where they should have at least showcases for a couple of weeks, because it truly is meant to be seen on the big screen. Jay is one of the best directors that we have right now. He's got a very great visual style and knows how to get really good performances out of his actors, and he does so here for the true story of Society of the snow. And then the next one, there's a couple of good things that are out on Prime, from Deadland to One Fine Morning, things that we have seen before. But Return to Seoul is that pick that we would recommend. It's been a year since we caught this movie and have included it on list, but now we know it is the most available over on Prime, and it's
There you
worth
go.
giving it another mention. Return to Seoul. Zach Scott?
Absolutely. I've got Self-Reliance, the comedy both starring and directed by Jake Johnson, a pretty hilarious movie that you can catch with ease on Hulu. I've
Ooh.
got the finale of The Curse, which is airing this week, a absolute cringe fest from Nathan Fielder and Benny Safdie with an incredible Emma Stone performance. It's just so uncomfortable, but feels so smart in its observations about certain modern aspects of a certain modern narcissism that
Agreed.
these characters get into. And then my last is a YouTube short, a comedy special of sorts from Connor O'Malley. It is The Mask. It is a deranged comedic profile of outsiderdom and radicalization, but it absolutely should be watched because it is it's the next level. It's the next thing. I don't know, man. It is something completely new.
Bro, I was going to skip it, so.
I don't know if you will like it. I
No.
in fact think you won't, but
That's fine, but you're
I
you're
still
letting
want
me
you
know
to
the
see it.
importance of it. You get on Letterbox and you're like, is this just someone's YouTube fans liking their stuff, right? Is this just a lot of things get rated very highly just because of the fan bases, but if you're telling me that there's something in there, I'll try an IPA once in a while. The Mask. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Good list of all the stuff that we have here. We still have more to come. Our most anticipated. Zach's got movies that I haven't even heard of, much less am I anticipating them. And
Right.
then we also have our Golden Globes recap that's going to be coming up right here. We're just going to go use the bathroom. We're going to go drink more coffee. We're going to be right back here talking about all of the good, all the bad. Damn, some of the ugly that happened in the Golden Globes last night, but it was pretty entertaining. We're going to have all of that good stuff coming up, as well as all of the stuff that we're going to be leading up for the Oscars. A reminder down below, you may soon see an Intercutie Award nomination list. Let us know your favorites. We're going to be having it so that you can vote and write in whatever your favorite stuff would be. And then we're going to be compiling it and even requesting some clips from y'all so that it's not us who are announcing it, but you guys down below. Let us know anything else dealing with movies. And until next time, that's pretty much it for this week's show, where you can find me over at LME Movies. Zach, where can people find more from you?
You can find me at Zshevich, or you can find my videos at Multiplex Show on YouTube, TikTok, or Instagram.
Beautiful.
You can also find more from us, whether it's the Patreon that we've shouted out before at patreon.com/intercutpod, or make sure to check out our clips page where we upload all our reviews in nice short form packages. If you don't want to work through this 2+ hours weekend must watch, we're going to break them all out into different like 5-10 minute review videos that we put out on this channel or on the main channel. Just keep an eye out for them.
Especially with our festival stuff, we end up covering so many different things. Sometimes we'll do a first review where we got the whole gang together and release that here on the main channel. But when we're going through just 80 movies for Sundance, it's good to have a little clips thing where you could see our initial thoughts, because some of these movies won't come out for a little bit. So definitely
check
keep
out the
an
Cuts
eye
channel
on all things Intercut, on here, on the website, on TikTok. Who even knows what the new app for 2024 is going to be, right? We might be on the Jeremy Renner app by the end of this year. You never know what blows up. But until then, a reminder that you can listen to every episode so far here on the Intercut podcast every Monday, where we talk about all of the weekend must-watch picks. That goes through everything. We may not like something, may end up being your favorites. Maybe you hate something, may end up being my migration. A reminder that you can listen to every episode of the Intercut podcast on iTunes, Anchor, Spotify, whatever your favorite podcatcher is. And a big shout out to all the Intercuties who listen live and leave us this 5-star review over on iTunes. And you were telling me that on Spotify you can as well.
Yeah, they have a 5-star review option as well. You might be able to give fewer stars, but I don't do that to podcasts I like. I support the podcasts I like.
Hey, y'all just tuning in, especially to me. I appreciate it. Whatever your review for it is, I like it.
Should I read our latest 1-star review?
You were telling me about it. I can't find it. Where is it?
It's courtesy of London Fitness Kitchen, who left us a 1-star review, called us poorly researched, dull, and inaccurate. So if you want to voice your opinion like London Fitness Kitchen, head over to iTunes to give us that much requested 5 or 1-star review.
If you were upset that we didn't like Saltburn as much, you can leave those kind words down below, and it helps the algorithm, baby.
Yeah.
Again, don't forget to leave us a comment, drop a like, follow all the socials over on Intercut Pod. And until next time, keep watching movies. We'll see some of y'all virtually at Sundance.